All righty, welcome in. This is the Sports 2.0 Network live NBA draft show. We will be here probably till the end of the first round, going over the picks, talking about players and teams and the outlook after the draft picks. Justin Ucken here with Grant Vale and Alec. What are you guys looking for tonight? What's something that you're looking at specifically?
Well, I think I'm just really excited to see, as someone who's covered Illinois the last couple of years, where I'd assume he ends up landing. He's been mocked recently here in the last couple of days, like early 20s. I've seen people mock him 22 to the Lakers, and I don't really think that pick's going to stay with the Lakers based off of reporting that we've seen earlier today about the Lakers being interested in trading for Russell Westbrook or Buddy Hield. Of course, if they make the trade for Russell Westbrook, I think that pick goes to the Washington Wizards. So I'm really interested to see where I would assume he goes selfishly, but I'm also really interested to see where Zaire Williams goes from Stanford. He's been mocked all over the place. He's a freak athlete. Coming out of high school as a top 10 prospect nationally, and things just didn't work out for him at Stanford, got hurt, and then things just didn't work for him on the court. So I'm really interested to see where he goes.
Yeah, all three of us are Illinois guys. We all are interested to see where Aya goes. I will be interested. I think that he can help a team if he gets put in a situation where he's kind of allowed to come off the bench and have the ball, but he's going to have to get better at shooting. So it'll be interesting to see who takes a chance on him.
Yeah, his body is filled out fairly well to get to this point, especially to kind of come in and try to get some minutes next year. Him as a junior, it makes sense, for him to, maybe have a bench role. We'll see, depending on the shooting. Like Justin said, that'll obviously be something probably post show. You never know. Maybe it's right towards the end of the show. I would assume he'll walk on the stage at the end of the first round. I don't know.
Yeah, we will see. Grant, who's one player that you think people are sleeping on, or is one of your favorites in like the middle of the first?
Middle of the first round, I'm going to go with Kispert. So he possibly could be on the lower end of that middle. He might stay, back there towards the middle. But when it comes down to it, especially when you get past these super talents at the top, Kispert's going to make threes. He's going to be tall enough to play, and he's a sneaky athlete to where I think he can kind of.
Can't hear you. Your audio cut out.
Do you want me to go?
Am I back?
No, he's
Yeah,
back.
you're back. You're back.
I got a phone call. Sorry. I need to turn that off. But I was going to say Corey Kispert, he's tall. He can shoot. When it comes down to these things, it's easy to just say, pick the guys are surefire, can contribute, and I like him to come in and make shots.
I love Kispert. I honestly think he's probably going to go a bit higher than where he's mocked because everyone has to be able to shoot. I mean, we just watched the NBA Finals. How many guys in the series played that couldn't make a three? Like very, very few. Teams are going to talk themselves into being like, look, he's got the size. He moves well enough. I mean, he's not going to pick up Trae Young and hang, but
right.
He moves pretty good for his size and his athleticism, and he is a really, really good shooter. I like him a lot. And my favorite guy, super high IQ player, played on a really, really good team at Gonzaga for a good coach. So, I mean, he should be primed to help right away. My favorite guy in the middle of the first is Trey Murphy. He falls in the same Kispert idea in that he's going to be ready to go. He doesn't have the ceiling of some of these, like a Keon Johnson, who's probably going to go in the similar range. Like he may not have the athletic ceiling where, if Keon Johnson learns how to play basketball, he could be really something. Like Trey Murphy is just going to stand and make a ton of threes. He's humongous. He's like legit 6'9", 7-foot wingspan. He's a decent defender. He's not going to pick up like Jalen Green. He's not guarding Jalen Green, but I think he can guard big threes and most fours. He's like prototypical four in today's NBA. He's a really, really good three-point shooter. I mean, I kind of comp him to Cam Johnson. I think they're pretty similar. Neither of them are tremendous athletes, but they can hang. He actually is a bit more explosive, I think, than people give him credit. If you watch some of his film, out in transition, he catches lobs. He can get up pretty good. He can kind of protect the rim. He did not rebound very well at Virginia, but I think part of that has to do with their pace. There's just not a lot of possessions for him to get a ton of rebounds. People were he only averaged 3.5 a game, but I don't think that's what you're drafting for. You just know you're going to get a high IQ guy who can knock down threes. And in today's NBA, like that's, number one thing you're looking for.
Yeah, he can cut too, which is nice. Even if he's getting pressured because he's making a couple threes, he can maybe cut and get a couple scrappy layups. You can't expect him to do, have a huge load on offense, especially not next year. But
Definitely,
like I said earlier, when you have things that are just surefire going to translate, you have a chance to get out there and play in your first year.
Yeah. Well, I think the Pistons are on the clock right now. A couple minutes left, but I'm pretty sure we know that Cade Cunningham is going there. Alec, what do you think of Cade?
I love Cade. I think Cade has the potential to immediately make the Pistons a much better team. I mean, you look at what Cade Cunningham is able to do from a facilitating position. He's such a good passer. And he can score from anywhere offensively as well. And I know a lot of people kind of look at his struggles at times last year to score at Oklahoma State. Well, he was surrounded by no one who could shoot worth a darn on that team. I mean, I think the highest any of his teammates shot from three was like around 30 or 33%. So I think you get him into an NBA offense with a lot of space where the geometry of the court just allows for more spacing and more actions toward the basket and to getting players more open. I think Cade's going to thrive in Detroit. I think he's going to be really happy. I think the Pistons are going to be really happy, I guess I should say, that they're getting, without a doubt, in my opinion, the most sure thing in this draft, because you just know his floor, it's so high, and his ceiling is incredibly high too. I don't know if it's, greatest player in the league ever at some point, but it's really high, and it's a perennial all-star. I think Cade Cunningham's just a magnetic personality and someone who you want in your organization for a long time.
Yeah, my thing with Cade is I love his like floor. You just know what you're getting. He's huge. He's he's not like the super quick burst, like going to dunk on you athlete, but he's plenty athletic enough, and he plays so smart. He's at his own pace all the time. He doesn't get sped up. He's a good shooter. And honestly, a lot of these taller ball handler, facilitator, run your offense guys are, that's kind of the trend now. I mean, he's not going to be Luka in the sense that like Luka is a freak, but he's going to like handle the offense like Luka handles the offense. Like you throw him the ball, you let him play make off a pick and roll. And my one concern, and I like what the Pistons did last year. I'm not a huge Killian Hayes guy, but Beef Stew and Sadiq Bey were really good picks. Both of them are going to play, and they looked really good last year. The Jeremy Grant dynamic is interesting because they gave him the ball and just said, do whatever you want. I want them to do that with Cade. I don't want Jeremy Grant to do that. So I'm interested to see that dynamic when they get on the court, but I like Cade a lot. I think he's no doubt number one.
I have a take for you, Justin. They gave the ball to him to be in this position. Does that make sense?
I hope that's true. I hope that was their intention because it worked.
No, but that's bad to say about him, but they weren't very good, so it's okay. I love comping guys in the draft. I just love it. I know it's like it's sometimes impossible, but I think Cade Cunningham has the ability to become a Paul George-esque wing. Like he's not as tall as Paul George. He's not going to really, be that 6'10" presence, but he's going to play that role where he can bring up the floor, but also play on the wing and attack from all three levels. He's a better passer than Paul George, and he moves like him. That slow, steady, controls what's going on around him, and at any time can just score or pull up.
Yeah, he's got a little more facilitator in him than Paul George, I think, but he maybe isn't as high level of flamethrower type scorer as Paul George can get at times, but he's more of a facilitator. Right. I think that's a pretty good comp. They both move kind of in their own pace. Paul George isn't just straight blowing by you like a Jalen Green or like a Steph Curry or somebody who has quick twitch. They kind of play a similar style.
Guys like that always control the speed of what the offense or defense is going. The other team does not control them. So that every time they have to kind of go towards their movements. Cade has that in him where he's like, okay, I'm going to figure out what I want to do, and then you guys have to react to me. So I like that.
Definitely. Alec, we talked pre-show for a sec about, some teams that we're interested to see kind of where they go in the draft. And I think you mentioned the next people on the clock, the Rockets.
Yeah, the Rockets are really interesting to me just because that organization seemed to be in such a steady place for so long in the last decade, half decade, I guess, if you want to shorten it a little bit. but they lost all direction, right, guys? In the last like year and a half, like they went from having Chris Paul and James Harden and competing in the Western Conference Finals 2-3 years ago to having the number 2 pick in the draft. And they just don't seem to have any idea of where things are going. And ever since they let Morey go and now he's in charge of the 76ers, they just lost all that direction. I think it seems pretty certain that they're going to take Jalen Green here at the number 2 pick. And Cade just came off the board to the Pistons like we both, or like 3 of us all expected. I feel like we should get that in there. Jalen Green's the type of player who you can build around. I mean, he's really versatile offensively. He's really good. He and Kuminga are what, guys, the 2 best athletes in this draft in all likelihood. They can do anything offensively. They can guard multiple positions defensively. And that to me is what makes Jalen Green such an attractive piece coming out of this NBA draft, because we saw what he was able to do in the G League last year. He's super athletic. And I know I keep hitting on that, but like athletes are the biggest thing in the NBA. And when you can stretch the floor and do things that other players can't, it makes you just that much more versatile. And Jalen Green is a great pick here too, if that's where the Rockets decide to go like we expect.
Yeah, I was a bit of a skeptic at first, and then over the last week or so, I've sat down and started watching film on some of these guys. He is like, to me, he's Anthony Edwards, but better. Like, they're both like super explosive athletes, but Jalen Green shoots it better. Well, yeah, but he shoots it better. But I think Jalen Green is he might be a little bit better facilitator than at least Zach LaVine was coming out. He's a really good shooter, and he's like a freako. Like, he moves in a different way than like 90% of the guys in the league. He can really, really fly. He bounces to the rim. I mean, he can really, really take it to the rim, and he can shoot enough right now already that he's going to score a ton of points for them next year. Grant, what are your Jalen Green opinions?
Well, first I wanted to say the Rockets also have 23 and 24, I believe, in this draft. Yeah. So they could also kind of, surround that pick, with some impact guys, which I like. I would be interested to see what they do there. Jalen Green, first thing I wrote down when I was watching.
Technically, the Rockets have not taken Jalen Green yet, but I think we're expecting that. Right. But just for sake of putting that out there.
Yeah. The first thing I wrote down was he overwhelms defenders. Guys like go to guard and they're like, whoa, like that's not the type of dude I would expect to guard, right? Like he's so athletic. He's electric in transition, like literally unstoppable if he has the ball and he's going at you.
Yes.
Just with his ability to move side to side while also just flying past you. It's unbelievable. I mean, he can create his own shot, but sometimes he, clearly makes bad decisions. If you watch him, it's not all the best things, best shots in the world. But I hope that maturity with his game and his skills will really help him in the NBA. Slow himself down, play at a little bit better pace, and kind of pick and choose those moments when he wants to explode, because his athletic ability could take him, far, far places.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that, he has the body. Like, these NBA guys are always looking for somebody that has an NBA body, NBA athleticism. He's clearly got that, but he's also got like high level scoring ability.
Right.
Like, he's not like you talk about Kuminga. He's super. He's got all the body and athleticism you could ever want, but I'm not really sure like he has a clue how to score efficiently. Whereas Jalen Green knows how to get the ball in the basket. He just does.
There's just something about him, guys, that like his ceiling is just so high. And I don't want to say his ceiling's higher than Cade Cunningham's, but I think they're right next to each other. And I think, and we keep harping on the athleticism, but like athleticism can make you a much better player in the NBA. I mean, Zach LaVine has elevated himself in the last couple of years with the Chicago Bulls because his skill level has developed in the last couple of years, and he's learned how to shoot it more consistently. But Zach LaVine was able to stick in the NBA because of how athletic he was. And think about how teams draft. They draft guys simply based off of projections of their athleticism a lot of times. And it's a lot of times a gamble where guys are picked. And it's based off of how athletic people are. And the more athletic you are, that much higher your ceiling gets. And Jalen Green's about to go here second overall, I assume, when Adam Silver announces this. And it's just, he's a safe pick at 2. Whereas you look at who else they could take, Jalen Suggs is obviously a really safe pick. I think he's going to be a point guard for a long time in the NBA. But, like an Evan Mobley I don't think is as safe of a pick as Jalen Green. Like, he's going to be really good in the NBA for a really long time.
Yeah, Suggs is my second favorite guy in this draft. I don't know if I was in the Rockets position that I would actually take him. I agree that Jalen Green's ceiling is higher. And if you're the Rockets starting from essentially nothing, I mean, they really don't have any young players that they are, building around already. I think Jalen Green's like the right pick. Like, he has the highest ceiling.
Kevin
I don't think
Porter.
his floor. I don't think. Okay, great. I don't think his floor is like low. I don't think he's one of these guys that has like this super low floor. I think that there's a chance he could be kind of just a scorer and not provide a lot else. And I think out of your lead ball handler or one of your main ball handlers that you want some playmaking, but I think he's going to get there playmaking wise. And I think Jalen Suggs would be like, if they somehow could have got them both, those two would have been awesome together. Like that type of player, like the guy who's doesn't want to shoot like a ton, like a Kyle Lowry type of player. Like if they can find somebody to play point guard next to him that can kind of run the offense, like a Malcolm Brogdon would be somebody really nice to play next to him.
Yeah, they don't really have a sense of direction right now. I think Alec mentioned that earlier. So taking a guy where it's like, we don't know, he could be just a plain, just a plain kind of crazy volume scorer, or he could be, an all-star in 3 years. We have no idea.
Right.
It kind of makes sense. So they're going to give him the opportunity. He's going to play along another guy who likes to jack up shots. So it'll be fun to watch them give up, maybe 120 points next year, but also score hopefully over, 150.
We have a trade.
News. Yeah, we got some
Who do we
breaking
have?
news.
Westbrook going to the Lakers officially. I don't know that there's deets on the. I assume it's what they were talking about earlier. KCP,
It is. It's the second
Kuzma,
one.
Harrell, and 22nd pick.
Yeah. So that 22nd pick no longer belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers. It belongs to the Washington Wizards. And honestly, guys, I feel like that was the most valuable asset that the Lakers had, other than Talen Horton-Tucker. If we're being completely honest, like that pick is a very valuable pick when you look at what else they include, like Montrezl Harrell, KCP, Kyle Kuzma. Like those are three players who aren't bringing a lot of value to this Washington Wizards roster.
My thought, like when I saw that they were like thinking about Hield, I was like, well, I don't necessarily get it, but I was like, I came around on it because if you think about like crunch time, you're closing 5. LeBron and AD need to be playing 4 and 5, which leaves Kuzma like on the bench. And like Hield or Westbrook, they end up getting Westbrook. We're both going to end up in that closing 5. Like if you can center a deal around a guy who's not going to finish for you and end up with a guy who's going to close the game for you, like that's usually a good deal. And I mean, Westbrook raises their ceiling. I hate taking the ball out of LeBron's hands, but I mean, it's when you can get a all-star level-ish player for a bunch of guys on the scrap heap kind of deal in the middle of or back half of the first, you probably got to do it.
Honestly, I'm surprised you said you didn't like or didn't understand the Buddy Hield thing from the beginning. I thought Buddy Hield, honestly, I think Buddy Hield makes a lot more sense on this Lakers roster than Russell Westbrook.
I don't disagree with that, really. I don't disagree with that. The Hield thing for me was like, he's not that good. He's a really, really good shooter. He doesn't really provide you much on defense.
But that's what they need.
I agree that is what they need.
That's
3
all
for
they
1,
need
though, for Buddy
offensively.
Hield is a lot. That was kind of my thought.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know if you have to give up as many players.
You may not have had to trade as many for him.
I don't think you have to give up as many players. Maybe you keep a Montrezl Harrell or maybe probably send Harrell and you probably end up keeping Schroeder
KCP probably, yeah,
or KCP for a little bit longer. But I do like the decision to go get Westbrook. I mean, clearly they needed another piece. They probably feel like they need another piece if they're going to compete with the healthy Nets team in the playoffs and in the NBA Finals next year. And there's no reason that this Lakers team can't go win an NBA Finals, right, guys? I mean, like LeBron James is still one of the 2-3 greatest players in the world right now and fully healthy, and no one's telling me that he's not. Like Giannis, KD, and LeBron, like you can have any 3 of those players as the greatest player in the world right now, and I wouldn't argue with you on any of them. And Anthony Davis is going to likely come back healthy. He's a great defender, and when he's healthy, he's one of the best front court players in the NBA, one of the most versatile players in the NBA, and the Lakers are in a position to now go win and win big again.
Until LeBron loses a series with a healthy team, He's the best in the league for me. What do you think, Grant?
This pick is in. We're gonna have to react to this pick live. We're sure it's Mobley, right?
It is
he
Mobley.
just got
It's got to
selected.
be Mobley.
What do you think, Grant? What would you have done if you were the Cavs here?
I would have selected Mobley, and I honestly think I could have made an argument for Houston to select Mobley. I get it. I'm okay with either. But I've come around on Mobley a lot in the last week or so, in the last few days, really. The way he moves is just different compared to these guys that are his size. I don't always think this matters, but if you watch him in high school, it's unbelievable. It's like this guy's going to be just like a superstar. And I get that he's like playing against bad players, it's not NBA athletes, but it's like that type of development. College might have hit him. He was still pretty good in college, but like he has that much of an advantage over the guys that he plays against because of how freakishly big and how much he can move. I have like a weird Chris Boshi vibe. I'm not sure he can be as good as Chris Bosh as like an offensive, like face-up threat. But the way he moves, I just think it creates humongous mismatches. And as we've seen the last few years, mismatches are like everything when it comes down to the playoffs. Yeah,
I am not a proponent of taking big guys in the lottery. I just don't think big guys dictate outcome in the NBA.
Right.
It's usually wings and guards. But what I love about Mobley is he can stay on the floor. Like, he's not going to get pick and rolled off the floor like 90% of the 7-footers in this league. He is humongous, and he can stay with these guards. And even if he has to trail and try to block it off the backboard after they get past him, he's going to hang with the guards. That's my one reservation usually with big guys is like when it comes to crunch time, they just don't dictate the outcome of the game that often. I think he can do it on defense. I'm not sure he's going to be the guy on offense where you throw the ball and he gets you a bucket when the game's on the line, but he's going to anchor your defense and be a super, super good pick and roll partner for those guards.
I love Evan Mobley. I've loved Evan Mobley, and I kind of agree with you, Grant, that he could have been the number 2 pick in this draft. And I understand why the Rockets took Green, and it makes more sense to take Green because you want someone who you don't need the ball passed to them to be successful. You know what I mean? Evan Mobley, to me, has shades of Anthony Davis to him if he's able to put it all together offensively. And that obviously is mostly centered around his ability to shoot it from the perimeter, and that's not something he showed a great deal of in his 1 year at USC. But if he's able to develop a perimeter game and he's able to score it from all 3 levels, we've already seen him be able to score it from the mid-range. You've seen him be able to make it from, obviously, the rim. You see an offensive player who becomes a nightmare to guard because he's a really good passer already. He's incredibly good at feeling the game and knowing what's going to happen next. So I love Evan Mobley. I think the biggest concern around him, is just like, and I hate using this, but like, how much does he love basketball? I mean, he told Jeff Goodman a couple weeks ago or in the recent days that like when I was a kid, I didn't love basketball. And you hate to hear that coming out of a big man's mouth because there's a lot of guys who are just really big that play basketball because they're really big. Now, I don't know if Evan Mobley loves basketball now. I've never talked to the guy, and by all accounts, I'm sure he does. He's the number 3 pick in the NBA draft. But that's definitely a concern that you could probably have. But I love Evan Mobley, and I think if he puts it all together, he's going to be a very good player in the NBA for a long time.
I actually think Davis is a decent comp because, at least defensively, I'm not sure he has like the assertiveness Davis has developed, where it's like you throw him the ball, he just faces up and just shreds you. I don't think he's like going to score 50 like Davis can, but like he's got a pretty high floor, especially for a big guy. Those guys can tend to have a little bit lower floors. I just think his athleticism can keep him on the court pretty much any time. I think that the Cavs are in a really weird spot with their guards because while they do tend to score some points, they don't usually end in wins. This will be the season where Colin Sexton and Garland are going to have to start winning games. Otherwise, one of them is going out the door most likely, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like Sexton was going to be the one chipped, especially how, Garland had a pretty good year last year. I mean, we'll have to see how it goes, obviously, this year. And with Okoro, I think Okoro could be a decent piece for them also.
Yeah.
I think Mobley, the one thing you have to hope happens is that when he gets stronger, he kind of grows out of being a little soft. He's not soft,
Definitely.
but when he gets bumped, I'm not sure he's bumping back. So I
Yeah.
hope that as he gets older. Obviously, when you get older and mature, just with age, you're going to get bigger and stronger. But these NBA programs, you've seen it with, like, the biggest thing is like Giannis, right? You saw those pictures of like what he came in and what he looks like now. He's obviously like a exaggerated example, but he could be one of those guys where you look back in 3 years and you just go, or 4 or 5 years, and you just go, wow, look what he looks like now compared to what he was
Right. The team that, when we talked pre-show, that I was most interested in is who's on the clock now, the Raptors.
Raptors.
For me, it's just
You're not going to like their pick then.
Scotty Barnes.
I've seen it.
Scotty Barnes.
My thing with the Raptors was, what direction are they wanting to go? Are they wanting to draft somebody who can play now to go with Van Vliet and Siakam and OG and try to like get back in the playoffs next year? Or are they trying to like go younger and maybe think about trading Siakam or Van Vliet? I think that they chose the wrong guy. Suggs is my favorite player outside of Cade Cunningham in this draft. I get it. The Van Vliet fit, and especially if they're going to bring back Lowry, he won't fit that well, but Suggs is awesome, man. He's a winner. He's a baller. He plays awesome defense. He can shoot. I would have taken him. I personally don't see the Scotty Barnes thing, really. To me, there was 4 players and then a big drop off. The first 4 guys kind of had very few flaws. And then once you get to like the Barnes, Kuminga, Franz Wagner, those guys, I think they all have kind of a big flaw. And Barnes, it's shooting. I am in the camp that don't think he'll ever be able to shoot.
Yeah,
and I think he's best. I think he's best with the ball in his hands. He's really, really an interesting guy. His body is like, he has a very weird body. He's got a unique body, and especially the way it moves. He's literally like, he like his body moves uncoordinatedly, if that's even a word. But he is like, he has control of it at the same time.
So they're going to play him, Pascal, and OG Anunoby together.
I mean, if you're going to draft him 4th overall, he should start. Yeah, I think
that's a really long group. I mean, that's a really tough group of players to try and score on.
Yeah, but you just stick all 5 guys in the paint and you just say, "Good, shoot all 3."
None of them dudes can make threes besides kind of OG.
That's my only thing with Scotty. I think Scotty's going to be pretty good. My concern is if he's best with the ball in his hands but can't shoot, that makes it difficult on your offense. We saw that with Ben Simmons. Like, Ben Simmons was the initiator of their offense, who can't make threes, and it bogs down your offense. You have a tough time moving the ball, and like, you can't run pick and roll as well if he's the lead ball handler. Now, maybe they're going to try to find a way, to use him off ball as a cutter, as a screener, things like that. I think that could be helpful. In this NBA, a guy who is a really, really bad shooter is really hard to keep on the floor.
They're comparing him. I don't know who just did this comparison to Draymond Green, but I hate that comp. That had to be Kendrick Perkins comp.
I get it in the sense that like he's smart and he plays hard defense, but I don't. Draymond Green's like a next level defensive genius, and his basketball IQ is like as high as anyone. I don't know.
Kendrick Perkins lost all ability to make comparisons when an hour before the draft he compared Cade Cunningham to LeBron James. First of all, why the hell is that guy on TV right now? He says the most stupid things of all time.
Yeah, I'm not a big Perk guy. What do you think?
This is more of a Draymond role, right? Like we talked about this. Like, he's going to play a Draymond role. We're not sure he's going to be a Draymond comp, but he's going to play that role of not being the offensive guy, but he can facilitate at the same time.
Orlando just got the thing they've been waiting for forever. Jalen Suggs they haven't had a good point guard in 20 years. They just got the best point guard in the draft handed to them on a platter. That's probably a party in their draft room. I can't imagine they thought that they were going to get him.
This is the best thing for them because
it works. They needed somebody who could shoot and run their offense.
Right. Stability. He's going to be someone you can play. He's going to be someone who can help the other players on his team. And he's just going to give them a little bit of consistency. If Jonathan Isaac can get healthy, they have at least a core now.
Yeah, they've had like pieces of an offense with certain guys over the years, but they just
Right.
I bet them over 2 years ago, and I watched, I don't know, 30 Orlando Magic games.
That's when they were fun to watch.
That's like scraping your eyeballs with a nail. Their offense is so bad,
Awful.
and now they don't have Vucevic. I think that this is like perfect for them. They needed a point guard to just organize their offense, provide some stability, make threes. When Fultz comes back, Fultz can handle the ball some, and Suggs can play off as a spacer. This is a perfect pick for them. I think they have to be so pumped because they needed – I really would not have liked Barnes for them because they just don't need another guy who can't make threes. They really got to add some shooting, especially no Fournier anymore. They basically rely on Terrence Ross to shoot threes.
The Team USA killer, that one? that
guy. Yeah, that guy.
I'm excited to see Fultz and him play together. I mean, we shouldn't talk
Definitely.
too much. We're not even sure he's been picked yet, but
he's
I
on
like
the top
pairing.
of their draft board.
Right.
Per Woj.
I like their pairing with the size and the athletic ability that they can do in that backcourt. That's going to be impressive, and I hope they can stay healthy because Magic will at least be a league pass team that where it's like it's not just a pass every time you see their name.
Yeah, and I think – I mean, Wendell Carter should be pumped because this is the first time he's played with a point guard worth of crap his whole career. I think, and I was a Wendell Carter guy. I think he's really, really smart, good defender. He can make more shots than he's shown so far. This will help him. I was the lowest of anybody in the United States of America on Mo Bamba, but maybe this can resurrect his career. I would not have taken him in the first round. I don't know. I didn't see it. He has no skill, but maybe this will help those two. You know, they needed a spark at the point guard position, and Fultz was that to a degree, but it's really hard to run NBA offense with a point guard who can't shoot. And hopefully they take him here. It seems.
I just think it's really interesting. Like even Cole Anthony. Like how does Cole Anthony now fit into this mix in that backcourt with Fultz and Suggs as well? I mean, that's like a smaller.
I don't think he's a starter.
I don't know if he is either. Like that's just.
I think he's like the perfect third guard. I think he's like. Cole Anthony was kind of built to be a third guard, right? Come off the bench and just score like crazy.
It's a really
your
fun
starter.
backcourt.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, that was what I was meaning. Is like if Cole Anthony starts for you, you're probably not very good. But if Cole Anthony's coming off the bench and like can really score, like that it just like defines everyone's roles better. Like you have a point guard who can run the show, and help Jonathan Isaac. And he's going to have awesome pick and roll partners. He's an awesome defender. He is a dog. He's my favorite like personality guy in the whole draft because he just wins. I mean, he would have been like what was he? He was like a high major D1 football recruit. Also, he's an awesome athlete.
He was a quarterback, wasn't he?
Suggs, yeah.
He
was incredible. He had football. I think he had an offer from Georgia to play quarterback.
Yeah, he's just a winner. He's just a winner. He's going to help them tremendously.
He's magnetic with the ball in his hand too. Like he doesn't ever make mistakes.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing with him. Like
he's smart.
Yeah, his basketball IQ is incredible. Like he doesn't ever make a really bad pass that makes you wonder like what he was thinking, if that makes sense. Like, and that's such a big thing when you're going to be starting a point guard in an NBA organization from the day you step foot in their gym. Like you don't want someone who's going to have a bunch of turnovers, obviously, and Suggs doesn't turn it over.
Yeah, he clearly has like a thing for the moment. That block in the championship game, or was that the Final Four game or the championship game?
Like half.
And the Final Four game with UCLA, he came over and blocked that shot, and then he hit the game ball or the bucket to send it or to win the Final Four game. I mean, he just like makes the right play at the right time, and he's going to be a nice settling force for Orlando.
We already lost one bet because Scotty Barnes went 4th overall in the draft. This next pick, if it's not book night, we win book night over 6.5.
Yeah, so Grant and I, before this started, we bet Scotty Barnes over 5.5 because we thought it was either Orlando and if it wasn't Orlando, we would win. Well, that didn't work. So we also bet book night over 6.5.
And he wasn't, so.
Yeah, I guess. But we bet book night over just because Presti's pretty tight to the vest with his picks, and the fact that everybody was saying book night to the Thunder kind of makes me think book night's not going to the Thunder. I would not draft him 6th overall. But like I said, I think all the players from like 6 to 12 are pretty much up in the air. You can't really fault any of them because I'm not really sure there's like a next tier guys. What do you think, Alec? Do you think there's a next tier of guys that you would jump to?
Okay, so honestly, if I was the Thunder, I would feel more comfortable taking a guy like Kuminga here at 6 than I think I would if I was a team that hasn't proven an ability to develop talent.
Definitely.
Like Kuminga to me is such a wild card because his ceiling is just as high as other people in this draft, maybe the highest if he's able to put it all together. But his floor is also incredibly low because there's not always a lot to work with when you watch this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But look at what Oklahoma City's done with a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, they've made Shai a really good player, like a very, very good player. And I would be very comfortable taking a Kuminga here if I was the Thunder. I kind of like Kuminga there.
I do too because of their ability to develop players, and like they're like kind of in a weird stage of like we're definitely rebuilding, and we need to decide, are we going to trade Shai to like really rebuild? And Kuminga's the type of guy you take when you're rebuilding because you can give him a lot of reps. He needs a lot of reps because my comp, when Grant and I were talking comps earlier this week, is bad Andrew Wiggins. He's like got the body, like he looks the part, and then you watch him play and you're like, what the hell was that? Like you took 12 awful shots and you didn't play any defense. Like I don't understand.
My ceiling was hopeful Jaylen Brown. So there's your wide.
When I was watching film, he moves a little like Jaylen Brown in like his shooting mechanics and like how his body moves.
He shoots a lot, like a ton.
He's not afraid to shoot it. That is for sure.
Like he shoots too much.
I do think Jaylen Brown's a decent comp because his shot looks good, but it doesn't go in yet. And if he starts making it,
Jaylen Brown, he's going to be unbelievable.
Well, I agree that's like a ceiling. I'm not saying but like he's got the similar body. He's humongous. He's athletic. He might be behind Jalen Green, the second most athletic guy in this draft.
I like the idea of him being in Oklahoma City. Like, there's not like the media is not going to go crazy. It's like, dude, just kind of focus on playing basketball, and we'll figure out the rest later. I hope that happens.
Clearly, that coach that they hired, Diagonalt, or however you pronounce his name, is pretty good. I mean, that team sucked, and they won a bunch of games last year. I think that would be a good place for him to go and like really develop. He's one of those guys that you have to develop, otherwise he's going to be out of the league. Earlier this year, I was looking at past drafts, so I went through about the last 10 drafts, and we're looking at players picked like 7 through 12.
Not a lot of good players.
It is a wasteland.
Right.
There's like you're getting maybe one per year that's like above average. So I have to keep reminding myself that this area of picks, you're just looking for maybe a role player with upside or like a really big like shot to the moon. It's like, let's just take a shot on this guy and see if he turns out. But like 8, 9, 10, there's been like a ton of bad players come in that range.
Yeah, and I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Is that we've mentioned shooting, and I have too. I know Justin loves shooting. Is that we can't disregard it now, saying he should go to the Thunder when him and Shai both can't make threes. So
I agree 100%.
It's hard to say all this, and then you'd be like, oh, you're going to go play there, and your team can't make any shots because all the players you have on the floor. Baisley, same way. Baisley's gotten a lot better shooting threes.
Lou Dort's gotten a lot better, but Lou Dort is a brick fest.
Imagine having all those guys on the court.
Great, you make a good point, and that's why I think that the Thunder could also be really intrigued by a guy like Josh Giddey here. I mean, that's like a higher floor Kuminga to me, like a much higher floor, and it looks like Silver's coming out here. But like I think Giddey's someone who makes a lot of sense for them as well, just because he's a good.
Josh Giddey.
Did I nail that?
Josh.
Wow, I nailed that. Put me on the desk instead of Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah, this is interesting. Giddey. I watched a little bit of film this week. He's interesting to me. He cannot shoot either, for that matter. But his feel for the game is unbelievable.
That's something Kuminga doesn't have.
Yeah, well, he's got like IQ and feel. Kuminga has no IQ or feel, but all the body. Giddey's body is not. it doesn't match up with Kuminga's like athleticism and size and strength and stuff. But Giddey is, I like him going to the Thunder also because if he gets a jump shot, like he can like be secondary ball handler guy, like run your offense when your point guard's out of the game. He fits perfectly with SGA because SGA is like not your ideal lead ball handler.
Right.
Like he's more of a scoring guard, whereas you can kind of give Giddey the ball and have him penetrate and kick and make high IQ plays.
He's
there
such
should
a
be
good
pressure
passer.
on SGA to make open threes. Like, hey, you're going to play with a guy who's going to get you the ball if you can learn how to make a shot. So I don't think this is crazy off. Josh Giddey has a little LaMelo Ball in him.
He does.
When he's running in transition, his vision is unbelievable. The passes that you see him make, he's always looking to pass. The one thing he does when he plays is he loves to draw attention. That's what these taller pass first point guards like to do, is draw in everybody into the paint, right, and then kick out. So it'll be interesting to see him. That was crazy good timing on your part, Alec.
Thank you. I don't know. I like how you mentioned there, like the shades of LaMelo Ball to him, and he's definitely not LaMelo Ball. Like, I'm not saying that this kid's going to be a rookie of the year because I don't expect him to be rookie of the year, and I don't expect him to have the gravity that LaMelo Ball has as a passer. LaMelo Ball is a special, special passer in the NBA right now, and the way he sees the floor is incredible. But Giddey also just has an ability to, I don't know, make defenses uncomfortable, kind of like what you said a little bit earlier.
He puts
Grant,
pressure
about Jalen Green. Yeah, he puts a lot of pressure on defenses to make the right play and adjust quickly because of how well he sees the floor and how well he makes passes, and he does them just right off the bat too, and he doesn't ever hesitate. I love Giddey's game, and I think now when you're the Warriors, guys, and this is my kind of mindset with the Warriors, and I don't think that Wiseman was as bad as other people did last year. Like, I think the jury's still out on him, but do you want to take another guy who's a complete gamble here in the first round in the top 10? Like, that's what you're doing if you take Kuminga, where you could go get a Book Knight. You could go get a Franz Wagner, who I feel like is a much more sure thing, than what Kuminga is at this point. That's a huge.
It's interesting. It's interesting because they have such a good coaching staff and culture that like getting Kuminga in there might be like beneficial to him. I'm not sure that they're going to be that patient. Now they have 14 as well, so they have to try to decide which way they want to go with these picks.
Right.
One more thing about Giddey we did not talk about that is a legit concern is his defense. He's pretty light on defense. Now he's long, which it usually can make up for that. If he can get like Joe Ingles decent on defense, where he's like, because he's so smart, he can make up for some of his like physical limitations. I think that would be huge for him. But I just wanted to mention that because he's probably going to get picked on defense for a while.
Yes, I was just looking at the order. Jonathan Kuminga is probably going to fall to the Magic at the next pick, right? The next one after this.
Expect so. And the Magic really liked him coming out, and he makes sense with the Magic too.
The Magic are in such a big rebuild that like taking a shot on him with your second pick, it makes a ton. After you get so lucky with Suggs to get the next, like,
that's what I'm saying. Is this worked out perfect for them, right? This is the draft. This is one of the better drafts they've had in how many years?
Ever.
Like they always get screwed in the lottery. So they kind of got screwed again, honestly. But they got lucky now with Suggs and maybe somebody else. I will be interested to see what the Warriors do here. I don't know who I would take if I was them.
Yeah,
I would try to.
If you had to guess, what are your twos? What do you guys both guess on the actual pick right now?
I think that they take Kuminga and just hope that their infrastructure gives him something to build on, and then they try to get somebody at 14 who can play right now.
I think they're trying to shop it, and the pick is in, so maybe they're not. But I think they're probably really tried to shop it, and I think Kuminga is probably who they take because they trust their infrastructure. But I would take Franz Wagner.
Ooh.
I would not take Franz Wagner. I'm not a big Wagner guy.
I'm not either, but I think his floor is really high, and I think you want someone whose floor is just really high and a really good defender. You're not going to go wrong with that.
I wish they had like 9 and 11, because then they could take like Kispert. I think Kispert would help them a lot in terms of a guy who can just straight shoot it, and Draymond can help make up for his defense and stuff like that. I think that a guy like Kispert, honestly, my guy Trey Murphy would fit really nicely with them as kind of a guy who can stretch, but you can play him at the 4 with Draymond, and they're both big enough to do that. I would love to see them get him at 14. I guess if you think Kuminga has the highest ceiling, the 4th or 5th highest ceiling in this draft, and you can get him at 7, you probably got to do it and just hope that he progresses a little bit faster. Or you think he has the best trade value.
Right. This might
and
not
you're going
be
to
their
flip
pick.
him and Wiseman and Wiggins for somebody.
Bradley Beal.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's what they're thinking
today. But the Wizards today basically said that they're trying to build around Bradley Beal, and they're making cap space, and Bradley Beal wants to be in Washington. So
yeah, which makes sense.
Go to Golden State. That makes no sense. Why would you want to be a Wizard?
Yeah, yeah.
Kuminga.
Yeah. I think this is it gives them a good trade chip in the sense that I think a lot of teams are pretty high on his ceiling, and it gives them another chip towards the future with Wiseman, who they're going to have to develop. This is one of those guys. They're going to have to really, really work with him.
Take back everything I said about Magic, by the way.
Yeah.
I do want to say, though, if both of these guys develop, the Warriors are going to be set up for a really long time to be good again. They're going to be able to keep this going. Now, if they're going to be able to develop, that's a huge question. However, they were able to turn Klay Thompson and Steph Curry into the 2 best shooters of all time. And Klay Thompson was not supposed to be this good. They made Draymond Green really good as well. Now, are they going to be able to catch lightning in a bottle again? I don't know, but I do kind of like what they're doing here. They're building and gambling on themselves.
My concern with Kuminga with them is the IQ stuff. Their offense is their offense is so good because Steph and Draymond's basketball IQ are elite. And I kind of feel like he's going to be in the way. Because his IQ is just not, his feel for the game and basketball IQ is just not even remotely on the same planet as those two. He might get in the way. Wiseman was that way a little bit last year, where he was kind of in the way at times, and they played a lot better without him on the court. I don't really know that's an indictment on Wiseman. I actually like Wiseman quite a bit, but they're both going to have to make pretty big strides to keep up with Steph and Draymond's brain. There's your Jaylen Brown comp right on the TV. Right.
Yeah, watching Jaylen Brown clips, he's so much better than John Kuminga. It's not even it's not even close.
Well, yeah, I mean, Kuminga is when you say somebody is raw, he is raw.
And he just moves like him. That's the thing is when you watch him, it's I kind of see it, John. I see a Jaylen Brown in there.
It's in there, but you're going to have to really, really dig for it because
I don't know if that's.
He's got a long way to go in shot selection, IQ. I think if he tries on defense, he should be an awesome defender. But we've said that about Andrew Wiggins forever. He was never really.
You talked to me about him being kind of Andrew Wiggins-y himself, and now they're on the same team, Justin.
Yeah, I said my comp right now was bad Andrew Wiggins, and he just doesn't. He doesn't have Andrew Wiggins' skill, but he has his body and kind of his I'm out here on defense, but I'm not helping you. I look like I should help you, but I'm not helping you.
So take that into the next step of them being traded. How does that work if they're going to be in the same package?
We talked about this a while back, and I think that it's more of a possibility now than it was before with the Raptors and Siakam. If Toronto called and they said Wiseman, Kuminga, and Wiggins, I would do it. I would just try to win. I know that Siakam has his downfalls, but he was best when he was on a really good team. I would just do it and try to win it the next 2 years with those guys and say, have fun trying to develop these two guys that I do think are good. But I would try to do that. I don't know who else is out. I mean, the Beal thing seems not likely. They're not getting Dame. I don't think they're getting McCollum or anybody like that. Siakam would make sense. You put out Steph and Klay and Siakam and Draymond as your 4 guys. The defense is going to be fantastic. and B, Siakam is a good enough corner shooter that I think, and cutter, that he wouldn't bog down their offense too bad.
What's a better asset, Kuminga or what's his name, the big guy?
Wiseman?
Wiseman, yeah.
Wiseman.
Okay.
Wiseman got picked second.
Didn't have a great year though.
Yeah, but I think people around the league are probably aware of the fact that he was asked to hang with some of the smartest guys on the planet in basketball, and he wasn't ready for that. But he had flashes. I mean, he legit had good flashes.
I also think that this is something that isn't spoken enough about when we talk about James Wiseman.
Is this Sengun? Franz Wagner. Wow.
Franz Wagner. I'm not a big Franz Wagner guy, but I like the fit.
Let me finish this here real quick on James Wiseman, and then I'll give you guys my rundown on Franz Wagner. First of all, his suit's terrible, but we're going to wait for that. I think it's important to remember with James Wiseman and his development last year that he was expecting to go to college for a year at Memphis. And then he played, 3 games at Memphis with Penny Hardaway's crew, and then he was forced to just kind of train on his own. That really hurt his development, I think. And, even though guys like Jalen Green and Kuminga didn't go and play, or they went and played in the G League and they didn't do college, they were still playing team basketball. And I think that hurt James Wiseman a lot. So I do think I'm really intrigued to see how he develops. All right, Franz Wagner. I'm not super high on Franz. Justin, you've made it clear you're not super high on Franz. I do think Franz is a very safe pick here, though. I don't think he's ever going to develop into a really good offensive player, but defensively, you look at his defensive box plus minus. Guys, it was over 6 last year at Michigan. He is one of just the best defenders that was in college basketball this season. He covers so much ground. He's so long. He sees the floor so well on each side. And I'm telling you, I don't love Franz Wagner, but I do like Franz Wagner. I think Franz Wagner is a very good player.
I don't think he's bad, and I actually like the fit for them getting a smart guy who can kind of do everything. My thing with Wagner is everybody loves him for his defense. How many dudes in the Big Ten are getting picked in the first round tonight that he was guarding? Maybe one.
Whoa, what do you mean, Alec?
In the top 10?
My thing is he looks really good on defense.
Oh, and he said in the first round, I thought. What'd you say?
First round. Io might be the only Big Ten guy.
Oh, yeah, he's the only one. And he
it's
might not.
My thing is,
for being honest,
I do think his he's really, really smart, and his instincts on defense are really good. His help side defense is really, really good. He's humongous, which helps. But NBA athletes are going to go by him. And I guarantee you, day one, Dame Lillard sees him on the court, he's going to say, come give me a pick, because this dude's getting torched. I don't see the one-on-one defensive upside that people are talking about. Mostly because his tape is Big Ten guys, and there's just no NBA athletes in the Big Ten that he was guarding. I do think he's really, really smart with the ball. He makes really good decisions passing. He's good in the pick and roll. I think he's good. I just don't see the all defense upside that people do. He's going to have to get better at shooting. He really didn't shoot that great, 34%. His shot is low and slow. Obviously, that can change, but I like it for them because he's really smart. He'll help them move the ball. I think he'll eventually be able to shoot, but I don't think he's a defensive stopper.
I'm going to spin this and say this pick is even better knowing that they got Jalen Suggs.
100%. You had 2 really smart guys like that.
They went from a team who you had no idea who would be on the floor each and every night. They got rid of Vucevic, who was a guy who was the only guy who held stability on their team at all from night to night. And now you have a hopeful maybe Jonathan Isaac who can be healthy, and 2 guys in Suggs and Wagner who are going to be out there playing for your team and competing and hopefully high-level IQ players. I like this just as a change of style to their team and change of identity.
Yes, have it. And Wendell Carter is a very smart player too.
Right.
I think that you put those 3 out there with Isaac, you got something going. You have players who make good decisions, move the ball. It's going to help. I don't think Franz Wagner is the shutdown defender people are saying. You put him next to other really smart guys who are good at defense. he's going to be pretty good. Like, he's huge. He's like 6'9". I mean, I like the pick for them. I would have been interested to see them go with like Bouknight to get some more like scoring next to like Suggs and Isaac, because there's no real like true scorer. But I think Wagner's kind of a safe, like, we kind of know what we're getting. He's not going to kill us on defense. He's gonna help us, especially as a team defender, and he's going to keep the ball moving on offense. And I assume that teams are projecting him out to be a better 3-point shooter than he was in college.
The biggest thing with Franz, in my opinion, is that you just know he's not going to be a bust. And like that's what I look at with what the Magic have done here in the top 10. Jalen Suggs is not going to be a bust. Franz Wagner is not going to be a complete bust. Like you've got two guys who you can build around for a while. When like let's be honest, like Markelle Fultz, like there's people who already say he's a bust. Yeah. Cole Anthony's got bust potential to him. You know what I mean? So I kind of like what the Magic did here. They've got two picks here that are probably safe and are going to be on the roster for a long time.
I imagine they are pretty ecstatic with how that went.
They are definitely happy.
What do you think? What do you think the type of player that the Kings need? What would you, if you were the Kings, where would you be thinking?
Point guard.
I'd be on the wing. They got two guards who are good. I like Fox and Halliburton, and I think that they need a wing. I think they need like a wing helper, not a ball handling wing, but like a guy who shoots threes, plays good defense.
Yeah, I think like a Moses Moody could be a good right here.
I think Davion Mitchell makes a lot of sense because you mentioned the defense. Like that guy guards his ass off, and he's just really solid offensively.
I like Mitchell a lot.
You've done it again, Alec. You've done it again.
Did I really?
Yeah.
I really like Davion Mitchell. He was one of my favorite players in college basketball last year. He's so fast. I love Davion Mitchell. He guards so well. He's so versatile offensively. He can battle through adversity a lot too. You know what I mean? Like starting at Auburn and then transferring and then turning into the player that he was at Baylor and becoming, a top 10 pick and the NCAA tournament player of the tournament, or whatever the hell they call it. Like I love Davion Mitchell. He's such a good defender, and that just raises your floor so much.
I like him. I think he's a bench guard. Ultimately, I doubt he's a starter, but he's probably a really good bench guard. He's gonna come in and change the flow of a game. He's so fast, and he's such a good defender that you bring him in like Dame or Steph or somebody gets hot, and you just bring him in and say, "Look, dude, you got 6 fouls. Just pick him up full court, make his life hell for 5 minutes, get him tired." And on offense, he can break you down. He's really, really quick on offense. He has burst and quickness that some of the guards in this class don't have. I mean, he moves he moves like his brother, to be honest. He just doesn't have he's not as big, and he doesn't shoot as well. Well, he shot well for one season, but I think most people would agree that that's not going to last forever.
Yeah, this is interesting how they're going to play him. I guess they're going to play him alongside Fox, and they're going to move just straight wings of Fox and Halliburton. It makes sense.
I would say he comes off the bench. I don't think he's going to start. Don't you think he's their lead guard off the bench? Probably plays with Halliburton more. To me, Halliburton is their main ball handler going forward.
Yeah, that would make sense. I just don't. I don't mind him as a player. He was obviously a great. I don't really understand how he makes your team that much better. I guess he just kind of gives you defense, but are they good enough to need a guy like Davion Mitchell? What? I don't know.
I think to me a wing,
that was best available.
Made more sense.
I think Mitchell is just higher on their draft board.
Right.
I assume that's what they were doing, and they're pretty forward-looking with their analytics. They're super analytic front office. They just do whatever the analytics tell them. And Mitchell's, if he's going to shoot threes like he did last year, that changes his outlook.
22 years old.
The history of drafting guys who are 22 years and older is not good, particularly in the 9 and 10 and 11 range. CJ McCollum stands out as like the only guy who makes you better in that. But
Bouknight
I think
has not gone in the top 10. I think that's noteworthy.
he's not. He could go 10 here. I actually think that would make some sense for Pelicans.
He could go 10, right? This is 9.
I guess this is Grizzlies, not the Pelicans. Sorry, they don't.
Memphis has proposed a trade, though.
No, I think that's. I don't think the trade is official. I think that's why it says.
Proposed it.
That's the one from the.
That was the
If
trade.
you're the Pelicans, this trade does make a lot of sense, though.
So
Because James Bouknight or whoever you're going to take here isn't going to make you that much better.
Yeah, I think
getting to the playoffs this year, which is definitely something that they have the potential to do.
this trade was. We screwed up. Steven Adams sucks.
This is
And
Grizzlies.
we should not
right?
pay him that much.
This is
yes,
not
the Grizzlies are making this pick. Yes.
Right.
What he was saying is it makes sense for them to trade back and get
you're saying
Valanciunas
them
versus
getting
taking
that
somebody at 10.
Yeah.
Right.
Because for Valanciunas is
this
going to
was
help the
actually- this
Pelicans
was
a
my
lot
pick.
more than James Bouknight, whoever the heck goes here, or whoever the heck they were going to take. You know what I mean?
This was my pick for the article, and I picked Moses Moody, and I actually think that's not a terrible situation right now.
I think that they're just going to – I think the Grizzlies – if I was the Grizzlies, Mitchell would have made a lot of sense for me as a backup point guard and a guy who can play defense. You can maybe play him with Ja sometimes, but I would say they're going to go wing. They've been drafting wings. They hit one with Desmond Bane last year. He's good. He's like actually legit good. Your TV's
Zaire
heading
Williams.
That's interesting because they've drafted a lot of big guys in the last 3 years. They have Tillman and Triple J, but they did just trade Valanciunas. So that I guess it makes some sense in that.
That's a crazy pick because if you only watch his highlights, you're gonna think he's like the next. He'll be like the MVP of the league next year. But other than that, it's tough. I don't know. It's hard. He's got a lot of turnovers in him. I know that.
He's got to get a lot better, but Memphis has really, really developed guys the last 2 years. Like a lot of their draft picks have worked out really well. They've got a good coach, and they have like defined roles. Like John Morant's their guy. Triple J is their secondary guy who scores and sets picks for John Morant. And you've got your wing players. You got Bane and Brooks to shoot threes on the wing and attack closeouts. And Zaire Williams, they can kind of bring him along slow. They're not trying to win the championship next year. So this is probably more of an upside play for them, I would guess.
Yeah, this is definitely an upside play because if this works out, you have you have an unbelievable young core.
I really want this to work out.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
really
saying
want
it
this
definitely
to work
can't work out. It's just like, this is the wing prospect pick of all wing prospect picks, right? It's just like this is a very stereotypical lottery wing pick.
This is you're drafting the body and projection way over the basketball skills. Like he has some skill, but like his body and his athleticism and kind of his fluidity, I think is what you're taking that stuff and you're hoping that the skill comes along, basically.
Yeah, good for them. Taking a gamble, betting on themselves. I kind of like it.
Yeah, definitely. And him catching lobs from Ja will be fun because he can fly.
Catching lobs from Ja. Ja catches the lobs.
True. That is true. Charlotte, this is interesting. If I was Charlotte, I wouldn't even think twice. I would take Corey Kispert and move on with my life. Corey Kispert would make 100 threes immediately. LaMelo Ball would just feed him three-pointers over and over and over again.
I did not put that two together, but now I can't stop thinking about it, and that's a great pairing.
Yeah, I love that idea.
I just think Kispert, Kispert's floor is like, I don't see how he's worse than Joe Harris, right? Him and Joe Harris kind of move similar. They both are not super good athletes, but they move pretty good. And Joe Harris may be a better shooter, but Kispert's ceiling as a shooter is just as high.
Yeah, I think I'm going to push back a little bit on that. I think Joe Harris is really good, and I think I'm not sure he is for sure as good as him, but I think right there along Joe Harris a couple of years ago is pretty much what you're going to get, pretty much right off the bat, which is good. Joe Harris has gotten a lot better in the last couple of years.
He's taller than Joe Harris, which I like.
Right. Joe
Harris is 6'5", 6'6", maybe. Kispert's 6'8". He's huge.
I'll be interested to see what Kispert does as far as how he plays. Like, is he going to buy into the I'm just a shooter role, or is he going to like try to be a wing dribble guy?
I think he's a great 3-and-D guy.
To me, he's just like you just run him off 1,000 screens, and I think he's good enough to attack closeouts. I think he can put the ball in the court a little bit. I think me and you talk about this. I think he's a 2 dribble guy. He's not breaking somebody down, but he could tackle a closeout and go to the rack.
Right, but does he think that?
I hope he should, because if you have LaMelo Ball running pick and rolls and him running off of screens,
right,
and you have Hayward, who's like him and LaMelo aren't like similar, but Hayward's really good with the ball in his hands. He's smart. He sees, he finds guys. That would be where I would go. Now, I could see them going like upside with like Keon Johnson, just hoping that his skill comes along. Somebody like that, since they're so far away, or Sengun, because their center position is trash. And if they draft for need, I guess you can't really, hurt them. But everybody keeps talking about they're trying to trade for Miles Turner, so maybe that's what they're going to do instead.
I like the idea of taking Kispert. I think you could take Bouknight. You could pair a really good scorer with LaMelo Ball. I think that makes a lot of sense too. But I think I would rather pair the scorer. And you could go with a Keon Johnson, have a really young athletic core with Keon Johnson and LaMelo Ball. But a great passer and a great shooter, 2 things that are really hard to defend in the NBA. And if you're the Hornets, why would you not want to pair your really good young passer with a really good young shooter? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me why you would do that.
The other thing, like the one thing if I'm the Hornets, I have to be thinking to myself, I want LaMelo to have the ball all the time. I don't want to take the ball out of his hands and give it to somebody else. That's what I'm saying with like Bouknight. Like, you're taking the ball out of LaMelo's hands, and like if I'm taking the ball out of LaMelo's hands, I want Hayward to have it. Like, I don't want to have to give the ball to some like Zach LaVine scorer type. Like, that's not. I want LaMelo to just run pick and roll after pick and roll after pick and roll, pick your defense apart, attack the rim, and have shooters around him who can make life easier. I mean, honestly, he doesn't have a ton of shooting around him. Miles Bridges is like improved. I wouldn't call him a good shooter, but like you play Hayward, Kispert, LaMelo together, you have like 3 really smart guys, 2 guys who can shoot off LaMelo.
You got Devontae Graham too, who also like has been from 3.
I mean, Rozier was really good for them last year. Now I think, whether or not his future is long for that team was maybe up in the air, I suppose. Because
I don't know. Bouknight makes a lot of sense though too, just because he's such a good scorer. So if that's what they end up deciding to do, it would make sense. I would take Kispert though, just because he's such a good shooter, and that just I would want to pair a really good shooter. Moody makes sense too, but I would go Kispert probably, and if I'm not doing Kispert, then I would probably go ahead and take Bouknight.
I'm not the biggest Bouknight guy. I watched his film. He's a scorer. Like, that's all he is, and he doesn't explode. He has he doesn't have the explosiveness I want from somebody who's just straight scorer. And he shot he was one of the worst 3-point shooters by volume in the entire NCAA last year. What was the stat that you had in that database you looked at, Grant? He was like one of the worst players that is draft eligible from 3.
He was really good before he hurt his elbow, guys.
I guess that is true. He didn't have an injury. Well, I'm looking at all the spoilers out there from Shams, and
why are you doing that?
Because I have Twitter up in case something happens, Yeah, well, we're all gonna be disappointed, I think, but they're probably going best available. They're far enough away, and LaMelo's far enough away from contributing that they're probably thinking, we've got to take the best player here, and just. I think that if they go with a guard, which it seems like they're going to go with a guard here, that it makes Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier question their stay on the team, I would say.
This is just such a difficult organization to understand.
Well, they have a decision maker who doesn't have full decision making powers because MJ is their owner. I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, he's an awful owner.
He looks not very. Bouknight looks sad on TV.
He does not look like he wants to be a Hornet.
All right, Grant. Is he better than Malik Monk? Aren't they the same guy?
He's a better ball handler than Malik.
I agree with that. I'll agree with that. But if you watch Malik Monk in college, I'm not really sure that much different. Malik Monk's probably more of a shooter than a ball handler like Bouknight is, but I don't know. You put them in the same gym,
I like him a lot.
Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier of Michael Jordan on a text, like a 3-way text message being like, "Yo, what's going on here, bro?"
I assume Rozier is probably not going to stick around. He has the most trade value of those two, and he's on a shorter contract. I think he's got 1 year left or 2. I guess he's got 2 years left. Well, he's got 1 year left on that deal he signed in the sign trade. So he's likely to move. He's probably the guy in the Miles Turner trade, honestly, would be my guess.
Who, Bouknight or who?
No, Rozier.
Oh, Rozier, yeah.
They have similar salaries. Pacers probably could use another scoring guard to go with Brogdon. Although Karis LeVert is there now, I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, this is an interesting pick.
So LaMelo's not really a scorer.
No, but
so this kind of like
he wants the ball. Like LaMelo's not as good if he doesn't have the ball, and neither is Bouknight. I don't really understand the.
If Bouknight develops into a good shooter, though, this is a better pick than Kispert.
Yes,
and again, Bouknight shot it well before he hurt his elbow, so this does kind of make sense. I think they're kind of baking on the numbers before, and he's got the right shot mechanics and everything. I think that this is the more I think about it, the more I like this pick actually. Because I do kind of
if he develops into a catch and shoot guy that's like really good. If he's like 40% on catch and shoot threes, like that changes the outlook quite a bit. Because having him as like a second creator, would be nice. He's just gonna have to be able to make open threes because LaMelo's gonna get you open threes.
Yeah, I like that pick. The more I think about it, I like it. I know you weren't super high on him, but I just trust his ability to develop and. Scoring tends to translate pretty well between college and the NBA, especially when you do it at the level that Bouknight did it at. So I like this pick the more I think about it.
I don't think he's a bust, but I think he has the potential to be kind of empty calorie scorer.
I agree.
And if he can't shoot, he has to shoot. If he doesn't shoot, that's a problem. If he starts making threes, like his shot's not broken. That's the one thing. Like it's not like Scotty Barnes where you look at it like, ooh, I don't really see the projection for a good shooter here. Bouknight has a nice shot. He makes, he's pretty good in the mid range. As a second ball handler, I guess I can see it. As a second creator. The Spurs will be interesting. Have you text Josh to be like, what the hell? Can we get the update?
I talked to him earlier today. He said he's going to wear his Illinois gear, so I expect Ayo Dosunmu to get picked right now.
If Ayo goes here, I'll give you $100.
Yeah, that ain't happening. But this is interesting because Keldon Johnson is having a huge summer for himself in the organization. With Team USA, they don't have a ton of like assets, you would say, on their team. Derek White and Dejounte Murray. I can't even talk. Murray are some big wings, but
and Lonnie was decent. Lonnie's not bad.
Yeah, Lonnie wasn't bad either.
They need size. This is going to be Sengun, I would guess.
I like.
I was thinking more of a Kispert role for this team, but
they do need some shooting. I would agree with that. I don't mind Moody here either. It's kind of the 3 and D.
I think Moody's the type of kid who has the ability to develop into a pretty good shooter. He profiles really well as a 3 and D guy. I mean, he can defend. He's 6'6", 205 pounds.
Definitely.
I like it here. His upside's obviously with his jumper, and he's young. I like this. And the Spurs aren't in a position where they have to rush things. They can be patient.
No, they need to be taking best available, in my opinion. They don't have I assume DeRozan's not going to be on the team next year, and it's going to be the young guys of Murray and White and Walker and Keldon Johnson and Jakob Poeltl. And honestly, I couldn't name a single other guy on their team that plays real minutes at this point. I think that they could use some size. I think my guy Trey Murphy would make a lot of sense for them as kind of a guy who doesn't need the ball that can play off of DeJounte Murray and make threes for them because they could use a little shooting. But I think Keldon Johnson's there for the future. I love Keldon Johnson. I think he's really, really good. He was one of my favorite like mid-round guys last year. Is like somebody who he played at Kentucky. He didn't get to kind of show everything that he had. He's a super, super good athlete, and he's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years in the league. It'll be interesting to see where they go. I kind of think that they will go for shooting because they just don't have a ton of good 3-point shooters. Kispert, I wouldn't be surprised if Kispert went here, to be honest.
I feel like
they probably need more upside than that, but
Kispert makes too much sense to me, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but I've seen who it is.
I just looked at it also, so you might as well say it. That's wow.
Not somebody that I expected. I listened to a podcast earlier today that, well, I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but this player was comped outside spoil it for the one person that's watching. Josh Primo. I did not expect him to go in the top 20. People were comping him to maybe the Lakers I saw him comp to once, and then like into the first. He's your 3-and-D prospect. Like he's not a 3-and-D guy right now. He makes threes. I'm not really sure how awesome he is on defense, but he's just a really good 3-point shooter, basically. And which I just said, they need shooting, so that's what they got. This is a kid who thinks he's the best player on the court 24/7. If you watch him play, he's like, I'm the man.
Yeah,
I'll shoot every possession.
He must have had a good workout with them. That's interesting because he can shoot though, so it makes sense. It makes a little sense.
He shoots so good that he's gonna have a role.
You know what makes him really attractive too is the fact that he's 18 years old. He's the youngest kid in the draft.
Yeah, he's super young. Yeah,
and this goes back to what I said earlier about the Spurs not needing to rush things. They can take their time. I mean, you can take more time with an 18-year-old than you can a 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old.
Definitely.
So I don't know. He can shoot it really well. That translates, obviously, but I wouldn't have taken that. I feel like that's a really big gamble, really big gamble.
It's pretty risky at 12, but honestly, this section of the draft, there's very, very few very few players that you can say, I know for a fact they're in a rotation someday. Legitimately. I think Kispert is one of the guys that you can probably pin for a rotation spot. I think Trey Murphy is one of them. I think Cam Thomas is probably one. But other than that, these guys, maybe Duarte, there's not a lot of sure things here. So if they think if he's like an awesome shooter and has like a bit more upside, I guess it's worth the shot at 12. They probably could have traded back like 7 picks though.
I just don't if that's who you want, why don't you trade back?
Yeah, like the Knicks are trying to trade up. We heard that all day, 19 and 21. They're trying to package them up to get in the back of the lottery. I have to imagine you could have got Primo at 19. Maybe not. But you probably could have.
Yeah, that's wow.
This is Corey Kispert City now. We're the Pacers at 13. He's been comped to the Pacers 100 times because I think Doug McDermott is a free agent, right? And he kind of fits the Doug McDermott tall wing guy who can really shoot, comes off screens.
Let's play for a second here that they don't go with Kispert here. Where did they go? I kind of think Duarte makes a lot of sense.
I do too because they have a coach who's going to want to win right now.
Yeah.
And Duarte is going to help you win right now.
He's just
Rick Carlisle's not coming in to trade all these guys and try to win next year. Yeah.
That's a safe pick on the standpoint, too, that if they are to take Duarte, it's a safe pick on the standpoint that, similar to Suggs and similar to Cade, he's going to come in, he's going to make you better immediately because he doesn't make mistakes. And he's such a fluid passer, and he has such a good feel for the game.
He just kind of does everything pretty good. He's smart. He's a good shooter. He's going to try really hard on defense. Now, he's one of those older guys that you maybe worry about a little bit. He's not like he can't defend like up and down the, 1 through 4 really, but he's not going to hurt you. Like you can probably throw him out there and he'll be able to play, right away. He better because he's going to be 24. I think he's 24 already. So that would make some sense. This is interesting because Indiana's like one of those teams that's good but not good enough to like really make an impact. Grant, who do you think?
Well, I just looked at it on accident.
Oh, it's already spoiled, huh?
Yeah.
Is it Duarte?
Yeah.
It is.
Wow.
That was a good call by you.
Thank you. I just think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of the reasons you said. He's going to make him better. He's a pure point guard. You need that in the NBA. He's fluid. He understands the game. He's got a great feel for it. It's a good pick.
It's just one of those things where it's like, we know what we're getting. He's going to help us next year. We can trade TJ Warren. Everybody's talking about him being in trade rumors. We can trade him without, having nobody to fill that role. Although TJ Warren is bigger than him, but he's going to help. He's going to help you. He's not going to hurt you, and he's not a project where you got to wait forever.
I think he has a little Brogdon in him, right? Kind of do it all, like can shoot, but also handle the ball. So
I like that.
That's interesting.
I
think maybe they looked at how they use him and thought how good they were and how they've helped him get better and thought we could do the same thing. So that's interesting.
It'll be interesting to see how in a full season Brogdon and LeVert play together.
Right.
Because they both have to have the ball so much. And Sabonis is such a good passer that I don't want to take the ball out of Sabonis' hands like completely. You want to keep him involved in the offense. I mean, he had multiple triple doubles last year. He's a really, really smart player, really smart passer. I think Duarte sets up perfect because he can just spot up and hit threes. Or if you need him, if he's going to run with the second unit, which he most likely he's going to, he can kind of handle a little bit. He could probably act as not their backup point guard, but like a secondary ball handler on their backup unit who can make threes, keeps you afloat. Rick Carlisle's not going to scream at him the whole game.
Right. If their team and their lineup stays healthy and they turn out good, this pick is going to be great for a guy who can just maybe like score some points off the bench and take minutes off.
Yeah. Like Carlisle is notorious for like not playing rookies and like hating rookies. Like you saw that with Josh Green last year. Josh Green did not get to play, and when he got to play, his leash was extremely, extremely short. Now, granted, that's not a team that's trying to win, but this is a team that's trying to win. So I think Duarte kind of, he's more of the player Carlisle is willing to play.
Yeah, they took a 24-year-old or however old he is. So
yeah, they basically like Josh Green won't be 24 for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So no, I see the reasoning, not necessarily my like you're not shooting for like crazy upside here, but
All right, moving to the Thunder at 16. To me, this is where Zaire Williams made a lot of sense. For the same reasons I said Kuminga made sense. They're great at developing talent. And obviously Williams is gone now because he went 8 and is going to eventually be a Grizzly from what it sounds like. So what do we think that the Thunder do here? I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Thunder to take Kispert because I don't think the Thunder are in a position to compete. I also don't think your guy Trey Murphy makes a lot of sense here.
Nope.
I
think this is Keon Johnson, Cam Thomas territory.
I agree with you. And I think if you're Corey Kispert, now you're starting to get concerned because now you're
Corey Kispert and you're like, the farther I fall, the better the team I'm going to is, and I'm ready to help right now. Like I need to find the draft order. Who's
wasn't the next pick the Warriors?
Yeah, the Warriors are next.
Yeah, they could take him easily, right?
He was just saying like one of the interesting picks coming up is the Thunder. I think Kispert, I said this earlier, that Kispert would be awesome for the Warriors. And I would, if they don't pick him, I mean, I could see him going with, like a Moses Moody or Cam Thomas, somebody like who's like just straight scorer. But they need some shooting. They were playing Juan Toscano Anderson legitimate minutes last year. They probably will again.
They could play Poku and Sengun together.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, well, I think they're going guard. They need scoring off the bench. They need shooting. I
kind of like
it's weird to say they need shooting with the guys they have on their team, but They play Draymond and Wiseman, quite a few minutes a game. I think, Kispert, Moody, even Cam Thomas, somebody like that who can shoot, it would make sense for them. Like I said earlier, I just don't know. His upside is relatively limited, I think.
Let's be honest here. Let's look at what the Warriors have done already tonight and what they did last year. They took Kuminga, that's a gamble. They took Wiseman, that's a gamble. And I'm not saying that this guy I'm about to take or about to say is a gamble, but he ain't a lock like Corey Kispert. Like, to me, like Moses Moody kind of makes sense here. And that is that third kind of young guy that you can put into a rotation and develop along with Wiseman and Kuminga to kind of get a good young core going to develop here after Steph, Clay, Draymond move on. And this kind of goes with a lot of things that you were saying, Justin, where, he's a good shooter. He's got the ability to be a 3-and-D guy. He's pretty good off the dribble too, in my opinion, especially going to his jumper off the dribble. I kind of like Moody here to the Warriors.
Yeah, he's a good shooter, and I think he's going to be a better shooter with like guys around him where he doesn't have to create his own shot. I mean, Arkansas was like good, and he was the entire engine of their offense essentially. Now that offense shot like 1,000 threes a game, and that's kind of how they did it. But I think he's got a really, really good. He would make a lot of sense for them as like a spot up 3-point shooter and guy who can hang on defense. Like he's got size to be like guard twos and maybe some threes, maybe not like super like the jumbo threes, but and he's probably small enough to guard point guards too.
I wonder how much the asset or being an asset in a trade affects this pick.
You would think it does to some degree.
It has to, right?
Yeah, you've got to take it into account. I just spoiled the pick for myself, so
Gosh, dang it.
I just don't know what the Warriors are going to be able to go get trade-wise that's really attractive to them. If Brad Beal's not in the market.
I still think Siakam is a possibility to them. Now,
that would I would be attracted to this pick if I was the Raptors then.
Yeah, if you were Golden State, how would you weigh, because I'm sure they've had talks with teams about who might be available, what they could maybe package together. How would you weigh, let's take a guy that can help us, that we like, versus this guy we like, but he also is like really liked around the league and will have that better trade value?
I would take the trade value guy because I've always been like this, is that when you have a guy like Steph or you have that window, the window's going to close. So you got one chance, and that's give yourself enough assets to make a deal, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in a Western Conference that's too good to get out of.
Definitely. And I think that the likelihood that the 14th overall pick helps you next year in the playoff series honestly is not that high. Go look at who was picked in the middle and the end of the round last year. Like, those guys didn't play in the playoffs. How many rookies were impacting playoff teams last year? They just took Moses Moody. Like, Moses Moody is like kind of ready to play in the sense that he's a good shooter already and he's going to be able to hang on D. If he's playing more than like 10 minutes for you in the playoffs, that's probably not great.
No.
Like rookies just aren't generally they're not generally ready to go.
Well, they don't know how to play. They don't know.
Yeah, it's different.
Right. I like that. I don't mind this at all. They got two really big wings who both have their own skill sets that'll hopefully translate. I think both scenarios of dealing one or dealing two or dealing none of them. I think either way, they don't have like a terrible scenario in all three events.
I kind of like what they're doing. It's a fun that's a fun young core of players.
To me, Moody is like slightly less explosive Book Knight. Like, he doesn't get to the rim like Book Knight gets to the rim, but he does shoot it a little bit better, and he's a better defender. But like, he ran their offense for them last year. Like, he was like, give him the ball, I'm gonna attack, I'm gonna penetrate, like make threes. He's a good shooter.
I see a much, much more limited role for him in the NBA. Much more limited.
I agree.
Yeah, you can't throw him the ball and have him break down the defense. defense. He's not quick enough. He doesn't have the explosiveness.
Right. That's why I was telling you about like Trevor Ariza style, where he's not as tall as Trevor Ariza, but Trevor Ariza, when he was like peak athletic, like healthy, he was moving, he was guarding, and he was coming off stuff and getting quick releases into threes, which I think that'll be kind of the extent of his game, in the first couple of years.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. He's he's literally a 3-and-D guy. That's what he is. He's going to spot up for threes. Right. He can attack closeouts, I think, if he starts making enough threes that they're closing hard on him, and he'll play in transition, and he's going to help. He's going to be playable on defense. Like that's, something you're really looking for, in the middle of the first round, is if that guy can get on the court, you'll take it.
Right. Well, and maybe, I think this kind of makes sense too, is maybe you deal Kuminga and you keep him. I think that's not a terrible plan. If you can get a guy in return and then also have another guy at 14 who can come in and play defense and impact, play minutes. It's not a guy you're going to rely on in the playoffs. Absolutely not. Like, that's not the way you win championships. But at least, in the regular season when guys are sitting out, that's the same thing with the Lakers, right? Is you have no idea how many games LeBron and AD are going to sit out. It's literally a crapshoot. You have no clue. So, bringing in a guy like Westbrook or just guys in general who are going to play constantly and give yourself a chance to win every night. I mean, we saw it this year. Didn't you remember the Lakers lost those two guys and they lost every single game? So you got to have players in there who, can fill spots. Having a guy like Moody who's got the body already to come in and maybe, at least try to impact. Yeah,
well, we're officially out of the lottery. Wizards are on the clock with 15. They traded Russell Westbrook earlier tonight for a poo-poo platter of role players and the 22nd overall pick. I assume that they're going to take NBA-ready players because they still have Bradley Beal, and they made it seem like, hey, we're just going to try to reload around Brad next year. To me, they need a big. This would be Sengun territory if they think he's good enough. Like, if he's close to being ready, he's really, really skilled. But he's short. He's not as tall as you would want for like a guy who's going to play center without having some bounce. And he does not have bounce. He's pretty bound to the floor, but he's super. You can tell he's so smart, and he can score. He's like, you can throw him the ball underneath the hoop, and he's going to school most of the guys who don't know what they're doing on defense.
Who's the one guy you're surprised by the most that didn't go in the lottery?
Honestly, Kispert.
Yeah, for me, Kispert, based on all the mocks, I would say
and I think
everybody kept mocking him in the top 10. But this actually would be a perfect fit for them, as kind of a wing for them.
They think that they have a chance to compete for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't either.
But yeah, so I would say they take Kispert just because they think that goes well with Bradley Beal, and it does. They need shooters around him, but that's just not. That's just.
Wait, what were you just saying, Alec? Did I just miss you saying that the Wizards are going to be good?
No, they think they're going to be good. Like they think they can compete, but they clearly cannot. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to be an NBA-ready guy here because they have to have one with.
The one thing that I would say, I think that they could take Kispert here, but I think they should. They've kind of like loaded on bigger wings now, with Kuzma and KCP and Hachimura and Denny and Bertans. Like, I'm not Kispert's a 3, basically. He's a 6'8" guy. Not really sure they're going to take another wing. I mean, they could if they really like him. But they need a guard. They need a point guard. Unless Cassius Winston is going to play point guard for them next year, I think that they could use a point guard. I think Jared Butler actually makes some sense for them. He's not like a point guard, but he can handle and score. It's a little bit early for him given the medical stuff that we're aware of now. But if he had no med issues, he's probably a back end lottery guy, I would assume.
I think Murphy comes up soon.
He's Murphy my guy here
too.
To me, Murphy is like. You just know what you're getting. You're not getting an all-star, but you're going to get a guy who can play. He's humongous. He's like literally 6'9". He's a good athlete. He's not going to like guard point guards and shooting guards, but he's long enough that like if they get by him, he can block from behind. There's actually, if you watch film, like he did that a bunch when he got switched on to smaller guards. And he is, in my opinion, like the second or third best shooter in the class. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter.
Yeah, he doesn't quite make sense here because of
No, they've got Denny and Rui and all
Rui,
these guys.
right?
And
But
Bertans.
I think he makes sense for some of these teams coming up because, like, is he little Sadiq Bey or no?
Yes. I'm not sure. He's like he might be like slightly longer than Sadiq Bey and not as like mobile. Sadiq Bey's like maybe a touch more mobile. Like Sadiq Bey could probably guard a 2 in the right scenario. I'm not sure he's gonna be able to guard 2s, but he's like Sadiq Bey in terms of like he's a good shooter. He's gonna make open threes. You can rely on him to make open threes. He would make a ton of sense for the Pelicans. Him and Zion, up front, and he can just sit in a corner and just shoot 40% from 3 and make Zion's life a lot easier. And like rookies are not good on defense. They're not. But so I'm not saying he's going to be like good on defense right away, but like he's like long enough and moves well enough that he's not going to be just shredded every time down the court.
Yeah, and the Thunder have the 2 of the next 4 picks, so maybe I was wrong. They're going to take some projects probably.
I would say Keon Johnson and Cam Thomas. I would be taking Cam Thomas. I actually like Cam Thomas. He doesn't pass. If you expect him to pass, don't take him. But he can score. I don't think so either. But he has like the scoring upside where it's like as your like backup shooting guard, where you can just throw him the ball and say, "Okay, we're down 12. It'd be nice if you could score 15 in the next 12 minutes to get us back in this game." He has that potential to me.
Right.
He's a good athlete. He's a very good athlete. He's the type of guy I could see the Thunder taking.
The pick is in.
I have not spoiled myself this time.
I haven't
I'm
either.
sure it's out there on Twitter.
Yeah,
I'll be interested. They really need a point guard, but there's no point guards that I can tell in this range. I mean, unless they're going to take Sharif and just like hope to God that works, but I doubt it. I do think Butler's a possibility. And
Kai
then
Jones, they could use him.
They need a big. They need a big. I mean,
Thomas
Bryant's coming back. He's coming back from ACL injury too.
Right.
Yeah, I think that. If they wanted to take a chance on Kai
But
Jones,
Rui could play with a big roller like that.
Yes, Rui can play with a big guy like that. Kai Jones is not my favorite prospect of all time because I watched some Texas games. You forget that he's on the court, which is easy to do with a big guy, but like he just doesn't really do much sometimes. And all of a sudden he'll just dunk on somebody on transition. That's kind of what he is.
Right.
I was listening to Rossillo's pod, and he was like, whichever team takes Kai Jones, their fans are going to freak out because the 30-second clip montage they're going to show on ESPN is going to be like, holy cow, how'd that guy not go 5th? And he's like, he's like, all the fans should like take 30 seconds and go watch a full game because he doesn't show up for most of it, but he will have like super, super highlight plays because he is a freak.
Okay, so we have a trade, but it spoils the pick. So are we okay with that?
Go ahead with it, yeah.
Oklahoma City is trading the 16th pick, and I guess Houston is taking Sengun with that pick.
Who's the Wizards taking?
I don't know, but I haven't got that far. But I could probably tell you if I just look farther.
I think they're going to take Kispert.
Yeah, I was so behind that I was like the next – I spoiled the next pick.
So 15 to the Wizards is Kispert, and then Oklahoma City is trading 16 to Houston.
And Houston is taking Sengun, yeah.
That's not a bad pick for them. That's just like, look, we're going to take a really skilled guy for Houston. I like that.
He's not super skilled, though.
Sengun?
I don't think he's super skilled.
He's a really, really smart basketball player who has back-to-the-basket skill. Now, back-to-the-basket skill is about the most useless skill there is.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like,
right
he
now.
can't shoot at all, and he can't pass really either.
I think he's a decent passer. He passes okay. His problem is, like, he's going to get – if he steps on the court, whatever point guard is on the court, it's going to be like, set me a pick, please. I'm going to be at the rim in 20 seconds. I'm going to be shooting a layup immediately. I like this for Kispert. He gets to play, on a team where he just has to shoot threes. But they are loaded with guys who are between 6'5" and 6'9" and just shoot threes.
I hope they can find like a point guard replacement, because I actually don't mind like the
Kispert's got
non-Westbrook.
kind of a good looking woman.
I don't mind like the non-Westbrook Wizards where it's like Beal,
Yes,
Kispert,
yes.
Rui, and a good point guard. It's like, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
hate that.
Yeah, I don't think Denny is bad. I like Denny.
And
He
Denny,
had
yeah.
up and down year. He's just not aggressive. You would see his box score. He'd be like 3 for 3. He'd play 30 minutes.
He
and go
played
3
with
for
Russell
3.
Westbrook and Bradley Beal, though. I think that has something to
Yeah.
do with it.
All right. Well, what point guard out there that they could get that you would say would be a good fit for them? Like, I don't think they have enough cap space to get anybody more than maybe the mid-level.
Cameron Payne.
Yeah, I think that would make some sense. I'm not sure if he's starting point guard for you, you're going to suck, though.
Yeah.
Trey Mann.
Well, I'm not saying a rookie. A rookie point guard, bad news Bears, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking more of an older guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up some.
Dragic, if they could pay him, I doubt they will, but they could.
Yeah, he would make a lot of sense for them, although he's not like facilitator type. I want like somebody who could facilitate.
Right. I'm not going to pay Dragic money either. That would be a waste of money. So
Yeah.
this pick is going to Houston. So Sengun, Porter, and Jalen Green and Christian Wood. So Sengun and Christian Wood together. Thoughts on that?
Sengun's coming off. They're not playing together. That's my thought. Sengun is coming off the bench. Sengun is a kind of a project in the sense that like he's going to have to like get more mobile.
Right.
I don't know. What about like Dinwiddie, or if Devontae Graham, if they didn't want to match Devontae Graham, like if they could give him a decent offer for the Wizards.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a facilitator, though, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, Lonzo would make sense for them. I don't think they can afford Lonzo, but he would kind of make some sense for them. He would help their defense too. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised Oklahoma City's trading it because they have so many picks, and it's like, why do they can't field the roster full of all these guys? But you know, well, I mean, it's interesting that Sengun was mocked quite a bit higher than 16. So
He's mocked in the top 10 by some people.
yeah.
I'm guessing his size really hurt him, right? He's just not tall
The
enough.
fact that he's 6'9" instead of like 6'11" or 7 foot. Like,
Yeah, he also just doesn't have a game. He doesn't have a face-up game at all.
yeah, he's just a back to the basket guy who, you know, he has really good footwork. I guess Sabonis is like the only guy in the league who like really relies on back to the basket, but he also doesn't. Like he catches the ball at the mid post and attacks and runs out of pick and roll, stands at the free throw line and facilitates from the free throw line. I don't think Sengun is doing that.
Right.
Now, I mean, Kevin O'Connor's draft guide says excellent passer. So maybe you know, people who watch him a lot more sees a passing upside for him, and that would help him a lot if he could, you know, be kind of a cog at the free throw line for somebody. But I mean, he doesn't shoot, and his mechanics are not good, and his defense, like, he's one of those guys that I worry about just getting played straight off the floor. Who's got 17? Who are we looking at 17?
Pelicans.
Kispert. They probably would have liked to have Kispert at 17 if he could have lasted that long. That would have been nice for them to get a shooter to go with the roster they have.
I take Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy makes a lot of sense. I could see them going a little more upside. I do think they're going to try to win some games. You know, they're not going to take big projects, I would guess, but you know, maybe they will. I think that the trade that they made to get 17 with Memphis helps them. You know, Steven Adams, I have no idea why they gave him a monster extension like that. And, you know, Bledsoe was a massive minus. And Valanciunas is good. He can shoot. He's plays really hard. He's decent on defense, and he makes some sense next to Zion because he can stretch it out to the corner. Whereas Steven Adams is not going to do that. Rockets gave up future first round picks to get 16.
My audio is all messed up.
If you were Pelicans, who would you take? Who's somebody that you think would make some sense for them?
So they need to improve spacing, right? We need guys who can.
And honestly, some point guard play probably wouldn't hurt them either. I mean, unless they're going to rely on Kyrgios Jr.
Yeah, because they're not going to re-sign Lonzo.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Murphy probably makes a little sense. Butler also
yeah, Butler would be
makes a
good for
little sense.
them. Yeah, because I mean, Zion's really your initiator of your offense. At least last year he was, and Ingram is going to be the same way. So if you could get a guy who can guard point guards like Butler can, but isn't really like going to demand isn't going to have to bring the ball up all the time. Like that's not his style. Like maybe that's kind of the way they should go. I mean, that's kind of how Lonzo plays. You know, he's not like a have the ball all the time type of guy. He a ball mover as much as he is anything else.
I like Jared Butler to the Pelicans. If that's something they're considering, I would take that.
I mean, they have the guy from last year, though, is the problem is that I guess he's just not very good, but.
Kira Lewis Jr.
Yeah.
They also have Neil Alexander-Walker, who's came on a little bit for him last year as point guard. I assume he would be their starting point guard at this point, unless there is some buzz about them being able to sign some free agents now that they got cap space, especially with point guards. So maybe they're looking at like Schroeder or I guess Kyle Lowry. I doubt Kyle Lowry's going there, but maybe Dragic, somebody like that.
Yeah. Kyle Lowry is no chance going to New Orleans.
I'll be interested to see where Lowry goes. I would assume that there's a chance he's back in Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know if they're quite. Well, do they want him? Is the question? They want him or no? They do, right?
I mean, Van Vliet, OG, and Siakam are ready to win games, and they're going to win you enough games where you're not going to suck. Most likely.
And they got Scotty Barnes, so they could. Yeah.
I would assume that they're going to try to win, and I would say if they could get Lowry back, they'd probably take it and just try to win.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense.
I don't know. I mean, where else? There's not a lot of cap space out there unless Kyle Lowry's going to go to the Knicks or the Miami Heat.
That's all right.
That would make some sense for Miami.
That would make a lot of sense for them, especially with Butler, a guy who we could pair with a guy who could shoot a little bit.
Yep, smart players, good defenders. Him, Butler, Bam, and Lowry. That's a good defense. No matter who you have out there, you can play Hero and Duncan with those two guys and survive on defense.
Well, I'm not sure Duncan's going to be on the team. Yeah.
Well, Duncan's about to get paid, so he's going to definitely get paid. Well, the Pelicans, this will be interesting because they're in a weird spot where, they're trying to win because they want to keep Zion happy, but looks like my guy's coming off the board here.
Really?
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
They need shooting. He's big. He's he'll come off the bench, but I think he can play with Zion. If they want to go small and they just play him kind of as interchangeable 4 or 5 guys, depending on who the defense has out there. You want as many shooters around Zion as you can get and guys who don't need the ball in their hands. He can just stand at the 3-point line and just make 3. That's what he did for Virginia. If you watch Virginia play, he wasn't creating any offense. He just stood and just drained threes.
Right.
And he can
Quite honestly,
get out and transition.
that's Virginia's offense.
That is Virginia's offense, but they usually have a point guard who initiates things. And when they had Hunter and Jerome, those wing guys would initiate things. But that's what he did. He just stood and drained threes. That's what he's going to do with Zion.
Wait, so the Rockets traded 23 and 24 for that pick.
They traded future first, right?
Oh, well, what was it? How many of them? 1 or 2?
2.
Okay, so they have 23 and 24 still, right?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Right. I just see they traded 2
They gave up future first-round picks owed by the Wizards and Pistons.
Oh, okay. On one commercial, did it already get announced or no?
I don't think it has. That's just a Woj. That's a Woj bomb. Not a lot of big trades. I mean, I guess we had Westbrook trade, but no big like draft pick based trades. Up at the top, at least.
LeBron had to have approved that, right?
100%. No way they're trading for Westbrook without LeBron.
And what are our thoughts
Greatest
on
player.
and what do we think about that? LeBron being like, "Yeah, I want to play with Westbrook."
My guess is he was like, we can't
good.
really get anybody better. Like Westbrook's like skill is so much better than the guys we traded, and I don't know that we can get anybody else. I think Kyle Lowry would have made way, way, way more sense if they could have done something. The thing was I saw today, though, is like if they signed and traded for DeRozan or Lowry or somebody like that, is they would hard cap them and they'd be screwed on any other deals they try to get. So they kind of needed to make a trade where it wasn't a sign and trade. And, that was kind of the deal they could make. Plus, Westbrook's trade value is not very high because his contract's so bad that, if they gave up 3 role players who make too much money for what they are and, a 22nd pick. So it wasn't like they gave up that much.
Right.
The other thing is like DeMar DeRozan never made sense to me. Like I
No,
feel like
me
those
either.
rumors are manufactured by different people. Like I never actually think the Lakers were interested in making that move. Like
I guess
doesn't
it
make
would only be a
sense.
talent play. That's
Yeah,
it.
well,
It's
yeah,
like,
but DeMar DeRozan is useless in today's NBA. He's,
he was really good the last 2 years. He was very good for them. He got a lot better facilitating. His efficiency got better. That would have been the only thing, though, is like this is just a talent play. Like, look, he's more talented than the guys we're giving up. Let's just do that. But I think LeBron's thinking is Westbrook gives us something that we just don't have and we can't get.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna have to hop off after this Grizzlies pick, so I can go do stuff for the Illinois beat. But thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll be watching to see where Io goes for sure.
Before we hop off, do we want to say where he goes? Give our one final projection for our guy.
Let's look here.
Hold on. Let me pull up the draft order.
I think he goes to the Clippers at 25.
I have him with the Clippers as well.
I think that they could use a backup point guard. Not that he's like going to be ready to play, but he kind of fits the mold of somebody that they would, that could play for them maybe.
I agree, and I love him going to the Clippers.
Yeah, I think that would be a decent fit for them. The only thing is the Clippers are not winning the championship next year, so they could try to go for somebody with a little more upside. With Kawhi being out, like maybe they're just going to punt next year.
Do the
take
Pelicans
Project.
still have 35? They do, right?
I think that's correct.
I think he lands at 35 with the New Orleans Pelicans.
Okay.
All right. I am
We'll see.
out, guys. Thank you
See
for
ya.
having me on. I appreciate it, and have a good night, and we'll make sure to
You
keep
too.
watching the draft a little bit.
See ya.
Yeah. Grant and I are going to hang out until the 20th pick just to kind of see where a couple of these guys that are lingering go. I'm interested to see if Jared Butler will go here before. Who Jared Butler makes a lot of sense for is 19 or 20 with the Knicks and the Hawks.
We have 2 bets left also.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm off the top of my head, but
Cam Thomas getting drafted before Butler, and Murphy over Jones. That's a winner. Let's go.
oh, nice. Yeah, so we did Cam Thomas over Jared Butler. That's basically because of Butler's medical issue. Like
Right.
he's got the heart thing that I think for a while teams were kind of just like no go, like you're not going to play in the NBA, right?
Well, he went into that league protocol where the league had to clear him, and then he got cleared. So,
Right.
I think teams now are assessing within themselves, saying, "Hey,
What does that mean?
Does that mean anything to us? First of all, like does that play into our decision? I'm sure it does. But at the same time, you kind of feel bad for him because if he got cleared, that's like saying a guy got convicted of a crime and then was innocent, right? And they're like, well, it's not my fault I got convicted. So
Yeah. It's
I
interesting.
he got cleared. He's a playmaker. He is kind of short, though. I think people forget that he's only like 6'1".
He's going to have to be a point guard. He needs to
Right.
play with a team that has, primary ball handlers who aren't like he does. He can't be the primary ball handler. He can be a nice secondary guy who shoots well enough and has athleticism. He's going to be a good defender. He's an awesome defender, especially on point guards. I think he would have made some sense with the Pelicans, only in the fact that Zion and Ingram can just have the ball. He can just play awesome defense and kind of attack when he can.
Right.
He would make sense. I think for the Knicks and for the Hawks. It's kind of a backup point guard for the Hawks, and for Knicks, he could maybe even start if he's ready. And he's probably not going to start, but he could play with the first unit and have RJ and Julius Randle, initiate, and he just kind of plays off of them.
Yeah, the Hawks just have so many guys right now. I mean, that was like kind of their key to success this year is that they have so many decent players. It'd be probably hard for him to find the floor. The Knicks a little different because that's kind of depending on the whole Derrick Rose situation. Is he going to be like the main guy for them next year? What's his deal? And then obviously quickly, are they kind of going to go all in on him? I'm not really sure. I can't answer that question, but
yeah, Quickly's not really a lead guard either.
Right.
I mean, he's a good shooter. He moves pretty good, but he's not a ball handler in the sense that he's going to run your offense.
Right.
Oklahoma City is on the clock at 18 right now. I have to imagine this is like an upside pick. I can't imagine they're going to take some safe guy like a Butler or somebody like that. This could be a Keon Johnson spot or maybe an Isaiah Jackson spot, somebody like that.
Yeah, Cam Thomas kind of makes sense for their fit to go in there. Isaiah Todd kind of makes sense for them, right? He's the pick and pop guy from the G League.
I am not an Isaiah Todd believer, but maybe he with the right tutelage in Oklahoma City, he
right.
Can.
Yeah.
No, this isn't.
Tough.
I just saw it from Woj. This is kind of an interesting pick. I don't mind this. It's an upside play. It's a guy who's got he's got your body that you're looking for. He's got the NBA body you're looking for. That is Trey Mann.
This is a Trey Mann pick, huh?
Yeah. He's 6'3", he's got a long wingspan.
Right.
He's 40% from three last year. He handled the ball for him. I think he's kind of thin. For a two guard, like he's not real strong. He's not a great defender, but he can shoot and he has experience handling the ball.
Yeah, it's going to be tough looking at their roster. They're going to have so many guys where it's like, well, he could be good. And there's like 12 of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, especially a couple years from now when they've made 5 more picks.
Right. So I'll be interested. I was going to kind of bring that up at the beginning too. Is that it didn't really happen tonight, but. Are they going to eventually find a guy they like so much that they just go all in?
I would assume that they will. I think they tried this year. I mean, those rumors about SGA and
right,
the 6 for 1. I think they tried, and I assume that they'll try that going forward. They're going to suck again next year and have a pretty good pick. Plus, I think they have a Rockets pick coming. They've got Clippers picks coming, which could be interesting. Obviously, they've got Miami picks coming, which will probably not be that good. But
yeah, I find them very interesting because I understand their thought process. I get it, right? You take as many prospects as they take. Eventually, some of them will work out.
Yeah.
But there comes a time where you kind of fall in this Celtics trap, right? That we've seen where they just take these their first round wings of these prospects and it doesn't work out because those guys don't turn into good players. It's never happened. So
the rarity of hitting a guy from 10 to like the end of the draft that's actually like a blue chipper leads your team is like 1 in 100. Now, granted, they're going to have a ton of chances,
Right.
but you're talking maybe not even one guy a year that's like a legit top 2 player on a team drafted outside the top 10.
I would almost rather use those things to get a guy that's already in the league, I think.
Yeah, I think that honestly, I think they will. They have to decide what they want to do with SGA. Is he part of their future, or is he part of a package for somebody?
Right.
They probably really were hoping that they could get Cade Cunningham and then put SGA with some picks to get a second guy with Cade Cunningham. That would be my guess. I like SGA. I'm not sure if he's your second best player, I'm not really sure that you're going to be very good. Now, if he's like your come off the bench point guard who can really score, isn't asked to facilitate a ton, I think that's more his role. Now, a lot of people are higher on him than that, but
right.
I'm saying if you're winning a championship and he's on your team, I don't think he's one of your best 2 players.
No, SGA, no.
And I don't think that they think that either. I would guess that they're looking for ways to turn him into a blue chipper. I mean, they kind of got screwed in the lottery in the sense that they didn't get the first pick. They got the fourth or the 6th pick or whatever.
Is Chris Middleton the worst second leading guy on a championship team in the last how many years? Probably.
Yes, 100%.
And he's probably 5 times as good as Shea. It's not even close. So
yeah. I mean, think about it that way. Go back through,
right.
Even title teams, or even NBA championship finals teams, even the teams that lost, maybe on that Heat team, but that's such a weird year, and Bam's way better than he is. And, I don't know. He's not the blue chipper lead guy that you're like, okay, he's here. We've got all these picks. We're going to get a second guy to go with him. He's probably the chip that you use to get either a first guy or a second guy.
Right.
Their goal is probably to suck and get the first pick next year.
Yeah, I would think ideally he plays like a Rondo role on that Celtics championship team where he has 2 Hall of Famers with him. Well, 3, I guess, with Ray Allen, but 2 legit dudes in Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, that type of level guy with him, and then he's the role kind of glue point guard guy.
His problem is he's not he's a score first guy, so it's who doesn't shoot. It's not a very good shooter. So I mean, it is tough. Trey Mann is an interesting pick for them. It's not
he's a good.
At this point, you're just taking shots in the dark.
He's a good best player to have when you're trying to lose.
He is. That is true. Knicks traded the 19th pick to Charlotte for a future first, and they are taking. This is actually I like this pick for them. They're in, like we talked about earlier, a weird spot where they're we kind of want to win because we have Hayward and we have Bridges and we have LaMelo, but we're also building. And they took They're going to take Kai Jones. They need a big, and he is huge. He's a freak athlete. He has no clue what he's doing 99% of the time, but LaMelo can just say screen here, run there, and jump. I think that'll be his contributions.
Yeah, I like the idea of the big that they play with this team to be fast.
Yeah, you want a rim runner with LaMelo.
Right. Because when things get hectic in the other side, you're going to want somebody who can get to the front of the rim as fast as he can. Run directly down the middle of the court because LaMelo and those guys are going to get you the ball if you can just get there. So
and stretch it vertically. He can. Right. He's a vertical stretcher, and then you have to beware of him on a lob. And that helps LaMelo tremendously. Now, is he Robert Williams where it's man, having him out there is nice, but his defense sucks so bad it's really hard to have him out there. He's got to figure out, he's got to be able to use his brain on offense and stay out of the way, when he's not involved. And on defense, he's got to be passable.
Yeah, it's a buy-in thing. It's a thing you see with a lot of guys. You have to find a role and buy into it. You can't. You can get better and develop without playing that lead type role while you're developing. It's not 2 things that have to happen together. You can do what you're supposed to do, listen to your coach, right, and play the role and excel in what you do, while also working on other things when you're outside of the game minutes, and trying to get better. So I hope he really buys into that
Yeah.
because Borrego, I think he could be pretty good for them. And with LaMelo, I mean, he's going to throw it 2 feet above the rim, and Kai Jones is going to go catch it. So
Yeah, I think it's not like Kai Jones played with awesome point guards at Texas. I mean, Courtney Ramey's fine, and the Johnson kid is fine, but they're not LaMelo. Like, if he can just get it down, like set a good screen and roll like hell, like LaMelo will find you. Like he can get up as high as he can probably touch as high on the backboard as like almost anyone in the whole league, I would imagine. He's humongous and he can jump like crazy. LaMelo will find you.
Yeah, this is a interesting pick. They traded. What did you say they traded for this? I
didn't see the trade. They just said that they just traded a future first. So I hope they protected that because they're not going to be very good. But I'm a big LaMelo guy. I think that he helps you win games. He's the type of player that you can build around because you know what LaMelo is. So then you know what types of players you can put next to him. He's not somebody that's like going to change as he gets better. He's just going to get better at what he does. So like, hey, we got to have shooters and defenders around him. We got to have a vertical threat at center, and we got to have shooters. Like Jalen Green, is he going to be a lead ball handler, initiator? Is he just going to be a scorer? Like you kind of don't know how you want to build yet. Whereas like I know what I'm doing with LaMelo.
I think the pushback I give you, if there is one, is we haven't seen a LaMelo type guy lead a team through the playoffs.
That's true. I mean, but I don't know what is a LaMelo type guy. Who would you comp him to?
I don't know. I mean, Ja Morant, is he the closest one? And he's not even really one like that. But
I don't think. I think honestly, I think Trae Young is a better comp in terms of like his like the way he has the ball all the time and makes his teammates a little bit better.
Right.
But he's way taller. He's a little bit better defender. He's not as good of a shooter, but he's not a bad shooter. Like he shot decent last year.
And I think that your Trae example is good because it kind of fits into what you're saying about surrounding him. Because look what happened when Trae Young got surrounded by guys he could play with.
Yes.
Who really like Bogdanovich was sent from the heavens for Trae Young.
Yes, perfect secondary ball handler. Who can make threes when he plays with Trae. When he's with the bench unit, he gets to handle the ball and do his thing. And maybe Bouknight can be that for the Hornets. I'm not sure. He doesn't have the size that Bogdanovich has, but he wants to be the secondary ball handler who creates offense. So, he's just not that type of guy.
I don't want to sound crazy bad on Bouknight, but I don't see that. I don't think there's like a ton of difference between him and Devontae Graham. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think
there's a ton of difference between him and Malik Monk. He's a different player in the sense that he's like more rim driven, like he can get to the rim better, but like Malik Monk is he might be more athletic in terms of like explosiveness. Devontae Graham is a better shooter than Bouknight is already.
Yeah. Bouknight's more of like the shifty guy, right? But
he's more Clarkson style.
Right. They're gonna play really fast and they're gonna have possessions where you watch them go, holy shit though. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how LaMelo looks in year 2. When he's like, all right, I'm like, he's one of those guys that like automatically like kind of got the speed of the NBA. Like I move my own pace. I don't get sped up, but I can play fast at the same time. So like when he gets like settled in, I mean, he's going to be really, really fun to watch.
Well, he's going to have real expectations this year. He's going
to be expected to lead that team.
Yeah, I don't know.
What I like for him is he has Gordon Hayward there, who's like a good secondary guy who's like can run your offense for you, push the ball in transition with you, make enough threes, and he can take the scoring load. Like LaMelo's not. If 5 years from now if I had to guess LaMelo's like stat line, I would say like 16, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. Like he's not scoring 20 a game, I don't think. If he is, then like he's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I wonder about Miles Bridges' future on that team.
He just doesn't provide much besides athleticism. He provides a lot of that.
He provides Sports Center. That's what
he provides top 10 dunks about once a week.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to get to a point where shooting just becomes such a priority that guys like him just kind of have to move on, you know? And
That was my whole thing with like this draft when I was looking at these guys. It's like a Scotty Barnes. It's like if you can't shoot at all, like I really don't know how you stay on the floor. Like when the game slows down in the playoffs and you have to play in the half court and you can't shoot at all, you can't provide any shooting at all. Like I don't know how you stay on the court.
I'd like to think
He's a good enough defender that he can, but like
right. Thibault was kind of like this, but Thibault can make some spot ups.
yeah, Barnes is going to have to be able to shoot like 32% on spot ups. Like that's good enough if you're willing, right? Like if you're a willing shooter, problem is you can't just be the guy who stands there and doesn't shoot ever. Like we've seen those guys. Like
you turned into like Draymond a couple like into the year this year where it was like
or like Lou Dort or Andre Roberson, like those guys who just kind of stand there and just
right.
You know, they're open the whole game. That's when you have the problem.
Right.
But Jalen Johnson is going to be the pick for the Hawks here. What do you think of Jalen Johnson? We saw him once as Illini fans against us. He's really big. That would be my one takeaway.
I got one word, 2 words. He quit.
He quit.
He quit.
Yep. He's definitely a talented guy in the sense that, you know, he's tall. He can kind of like handle a little bit for how tall he is, but I mean, he quit on his team at Duke. I don't think Coach K really liked him that much. He doesn't shoot that good. He's really big. Like he's like legit like 6'8" and really long arms and kind of is a point like he runs like point forward, but you know, not really sure. I don't see how he fits on that team.
Well, I'm gonna even go even farther. I think he doesn't fit. It makes sense because he doesn't fit because they're not expecting him to play.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's not going to play for them next year.
Right, he's not playing, so it's like can we take a guy who like who knows, maybe like we hit a freaking jackpot and he actually turns out good. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a couple hours here. I think we're going to wrap it up. There's still a few interesting guys on the board.
We have one bet outstanding, so let's try to get a win here.
Yeah. Cam Thomas over Jared Butler. So we will see. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the live draft show. It's been a lot of fun, and I don't think we're done. I think there's going to be some NBA trades coming in the next few days. There's still some interesting guys to be picked. So, peace out.
Hold on. Can we do one?
Okay.
Can we do one crossover real quick and look at golf scores?
Yeah, this is the golf guys for Sports 2.0 here. You know, breaking into the basketball stuff.
Before I tell you, do you think Sepp Straka is in the lead still?
No. Thomas Peters.
Is he really? Are you saying?
No, I'm not looking at it. I'm guessing.
Alex Noren. Wow.
I bet against Alex Noren in a matchup.
Alex Noren. Mito is in second.
Ooh.
Jazz Ortiz. Victor Hovland's 3 under today. Rory and Shane Lowry both in the top 10. Peters, Johnny Vegas, Munoz, Xander, Dietrich. Patrick Reed, Cam Smith. So that's not bad.
Interesting. Well, the Golf Boys will be back next Wednesday. We're getting close to the playoffs. I think the Wyndham is next week, and then WGC next week, and then the Wyndham, and then the playoffs. So we'll see you on Wednesday night. Peace out, everybody.